Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world away from the numbers.
Hello, how do you do? We are the boys in white and blue, and we're back with another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN soccer show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam territory at the University of beautiful and chilly British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
Yes, he's back, everybody, in one piece, with both his hands, healthy as well. Now, I was joking to you when you were flying back, Zach, that, you're going to be coming back to the cold temperatures, you're going to get ill, you're going to have a cold, whereas it's me, as you might be able to hear from my voice, that has come down with a cold. I will soldier through, because I'm a brave little soldier. That's what my mum always used to tell me. But you don't seem to have shown any ill effects from going from that heat to the cold. Is that because it was freezing at times over there?
Oh, if you were in the wrong part of the stadium, yeah, the air conditioning was incredibly cold. So yeah, just like being back home.
Well, we're going to get into Zach's trip in the show tonight. We're also going to be looking a little bit at some of the domestic news that's come out in MLS and the Canadian Premier League. And we're also going to kick things off by looking at the World Cup final, because the 2022 World Cup winners have been crowned. And take a bow, Lionel Messi and Argentina, 3 times winners now of the World Cup. And wow, what a World Cup finals that was. Amazing stuff, Steve. You watched it live. I watched it on delay because I couldn't be bothered getting up at 7 o'clock whilst being sick.
Watched it live, but very quietly, because my wife was sleeping next to me, so I couldn't move too much when the goals were going in. But there was a lot of inner monologue going on at that time.
No, sort of quiet fist pumping.
Yeah, a little fist pumping. But I did that once where, I was listening to it during this World Cup where I started cheering, but it kind of squeaked out and it scared her because I thought because it was during when I was in pain and stuff like that with my stones.
Oh.
So she thought there was something wrong with me, so I had to be very quiet this time because she overreacts when she's sleeping. She gets woken up by something.
Oh.
If I yell while she's sleeping, then she thinks somebody's having a heart attack or something like that.
I mean, we've all done some quiet fist pumping in bed and let one squeal out every now and again, but
of course. Especially during this World Cup.
Yes. Zach, what did you make of it?
I woke up and watched it with my son, although he kept on sort of falling asleep, so I did wake him up.
See, this was why I wanted to watch it on delay. I'd switched all my phones and everything off. I didn't know the result, so it was as if I was watching it live.
I had to watch it
on the
because
back of the head to wake him up.
I kept on being like, "Hey, so what do you think about that?" And then when he didn't respond, I'd shake him. I had to watch it because I had to go to work. So actually I missed the last 5 minutes of regular time because I was driving to work, and at work I watched the second half or the extra time and the PKs. It was for me this is not quite a meteor match, but it's pretty close in terms of not really having a strong desire for either of these teams to win it.
Yeah, I didn't really care who won.
But then for somebody that, you didn't have a strong desire, but for somebody who didn't really care who won, I think it was an exciting match. It was like a lot of people would say like that stretch. Like I think Michael, you mentioned it beforehand that there was a stretch of like 60 minutes where there's nothing happening.
Mm.
But if you think of other World Cups, there's been stretches like that where there's been no goals and nothing happening for like 60 minutes. It's like there was.
I wouldn't even say 60. I would say from the second half up until the penalty.
Oh, okay, halftime.
It wasn't a fantastic second half, but it was a good defensive display.
Oh,
Argentina were doing everything right and killing the game off, which we've seen France do before. And
yeah,
I mean, going into this game, we knew it was going to be a tale of the two tens. It turned out it was a tale of the two tens, and it was a tale of the two tenths as well, because it was like an absolutely tense, edge of the seat stuff once France got themselves back into it. It was like Agatha Christie had written a World Cup final with twists and turns and a few obvious plot twists as well, as in Messi scoring and Mbappe scoring, and it was an incredible game. And like Argentina, we won't break down the whole game, but like Argentina came out strong, and we knew going into it France had been hit with like sickness in the camp, and it looked like they just had no energy. And Argentina, that first half, that was clinical stuff from Argentina. France weren't even in the match. They looked to be coasting. They looked to be home and dry. Messi, of course it was Messi that fired them ahead from the spot in the 23rd minute. Was that a penalty for you?
Well, the French team, it was weird. He went with kind of what had kind of, his kind of favored mostly starting 11, except for I guess the back was a little bit had been switched up because of flu and other stuff. I just personally, I mean, I watched him in the Bundesliga for a while, and I've watched him in Champions League and a little bit in La Liga. I do not rate Ousmane Dembele. Like when Dortmund sold him for whatever tens of millions or over 100 million or whatever it was to Barcelona, everyone in the Bundesliga was like, wow, that's such a steal. Like they've just like ripped off Barcelona so bad. And he is just not like a complete player to me. And it wasn't like wasn't one mistake, it was two mistakes. It was a lazy lunge, like incredibly lazy lunge that Di Maria easily just walks by him. And then unfortunately, I thought at first, Michael, I thought, no, it's not a penalty, not a penalty. And you watch the replay and you're like, yeah, there's no way they're going to overturn that because he does kind of go into his feet or whatever. And yeah, I was so frustrated, and yet I was so happy that Deschamps showed enough gumption to take him off before the half and to take off Giroud, who I thought my son said something about he had issues in training, leading up to the final. I don't think
a knee issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes a change from some of the other issues that we've seen in the French camps over previous World Cups.
So yeah, I think ultimately it was a penalty, unfortunately. But Deschamps, I think, deserves a lot of credit for not sitting back and actually like showing that he was willing to make changes even at the 40th minute mark.
Yeah, but my only issue with making the change at the 40th minute mark was the fact that why don't you make that change at halftime? Maybe Argentina doesn't have any chance to like make adjustments or something, because I feel like they made adjustments for those changes. For me, the penalty, Michael, you asked, was that a penalty? Whether you want to call it a penalty or not, it was definitely consistent because it's kind of very similar to what France got called. So in that way, it was consistent. So I don't have an issue with it. I was kind of leaning towards this. I don't feel either one was that much of a penalty, but I feel like it was close enough that it definitely was not going to be overturned.
Yeah, because when I first saw it, I thought soft, and then you see the replay, and like Zach said, it's not enough there to overturn it, and there was definitely something that went on. But I mean, France's downfall in some of their games has been some poor defending. You saw it in the England game as well, where there was just some horrendous defending for them. But I mean, they had some great defensive plays in this game as well. Yeah. The second goal for Argentina, though, I mean, that's one of the goals of the tournament. Di Maria, what a team goal. The pass from McAllister to play in Di Maria, though, as well, absolutely timed to perfection.
Showed some of his Scottish roots there.
Yes, I just wanted to get that in.
I knew you knew. I mean, it was a great team goal, but to me, I would say France's second team goal was even better. But you're right. No, it was a good team goal, except for the other thing is, I don't really rate the guy to begin with, even though he's done some great things and, obviously he won a World Cup. But I thought Lloris went down like way too early on. I know he's coming across and he's worried about what's going to happen, and he's trying to make himself big, width wise.
Yeah.
I thought if he stands it up, if he comes across standing up and tries to react more than kind of just diving, that's not as easy to finish for Di Maria.
100% agree. I feel like goalies dive way too quickly in most avenues, where if they just stayed upright, they would not be able. The attacker sees too much, and he doesn't know. It kind of panics them.
The other thing about France's defense, and I know I think you guys have commented on this on other shows. The one thing you have to say about France, whatever you think about them, however you feel about them, they have at least bare minimum half of a starting 11 that got injured before this tournament, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not just Benzema, it's not just Pogba, it's not just Conte, but it's also Kimpembe, one of their key center backs, and there's a few other guys who I think would have been.
Well, Hernandez in the first game.
My buddy Hernandez,
the better Hernandez.
The other thing is I don't rate Varane. I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm biased, whatever. I would have loved to have seen Benjamin Pavard got more playing time in at center back, but even Konate, who used to play for Dead Bull, I thought would have been better to start the game than him. But
the one thing about Di Maria, I felt like he was like probably one of their, other than Messi, was their best player while he was on the pitch. He showed the form that he had pre Man United and post Man United that time, because it definitely did not show that form while he was Man United.
Like Di Maria as well, the emotions that he went through on the bench.
On the bench,
he was crying when Messi scored. He was crying when
he got the Ronaldo treatment. He got the Ronaldo treatment on the bench.
Oh yeah, I mean he was just living every kick of that. And as a player, you just want to be on that pitch, and if you're not, you're just kicking every ball from the bench.
And he's someone again who, like Kun Aguero, who we also saw in the crowd, who made his mark or initial marks in in the national setup at the U20 here in Canada in 2007, right? Like I saw Di Maria score the lone goal in a quarterfinal match against Mexico in Ottawa. Was the first time I saw him play, and then I saw him play in the the semifinal and the final as well in Toronto. But yeah, he's a quality player who, like Messi, is coming to the end of his days at the top level.
It looked done and dusted, and a lot of the second half it wasn't great. Argentina were just doing what they needed to do. They'd shut France down. France just seemed to have nothing. And then 2 goals in 97 seconds, and the game's turned on its head. And
I said to Kirk, with 15 minutes left, I said they only need a couple minutes to score a couple goals. And then it happened, and it was
and that little sequence there also provided some semblance to the people that say 2-0 is the worst lead.
I know. That was going through my head. I've got that written down in my notes. I've got the most dangerous lead in football.
But if you think of it, that is a prime example. Like I'm not a big believer. I'm a big believer that I would rather have a 2-0 lead than not have a 2-0 lead. I would rather have that. But the thing is that what makes the 2-0 lead dangerous is you have to attack them right away. You just can't sit back and relax. And that's what France did. They went after them while they were still stumbling, getting shell-shocked by that first goal, and they took advantage of it. And that's how they got back in the game. France
needed the spark. They got the spark with that penalty from Mbappe. And, I mean, we talked about the great team goal for Argentina's second, and that was some lovely interplay as well for that French second.
Yeah, I was happy Coman, made at least one positive contribution to the game before having some negative impact later.
I wasn't sure how extra time was going to go, if they were just going to both be cagey or whatever, but I mean, the two men of the moment, the two number 10s, made their mark. When Messi put Argentina back ahead in the 109th minute, I thought again, France, that's them. They're done. They're not going to come back. I'm kind of glad that wasn't the winning goal, because the commentary was awful for it. And as a commentator, I so felt for them, because it's like that could have been Messi's moment of winning a World Cup for himself and for his country. And they've got a horrible call on it because of the confusion. And it was all because the co-commentator thought he'd seen the flag go up from the linesman and just kind of had no idea what was going on.
Well, the linesman apparently did oh no, right? Like that's why
I didn't know that.
I don't know if he raced it though, to maybe he was going to kind of signal that the ball was over the line, but of course
that's probably what
the watch on, and it didn't need to do that. And
I think that's what it is. I think the linesman was pointing that it was a goal or something across the line.
But mass confusion, but the ball was so far over the line, and Messi turned away, and it was just a bit confusing from the commentary. But I mean, the emotions again that were going through the Argentina team at that point. But then back comes France, and again, it's consistency, as you said, Steve, for penalties. Hand raised, handball in the box, another penalty. Mbappe steps up and buries it. Mbappe, to steal a line from Ali McCoist on the ITV commentary over in the UK, Mbappe with the first hat-trick in a World Cup final where all 3 shots have actually crossed the line.
Love it. Love it. Truth.
That's been doing the rounds on all my social media feeds over there. Ali McCoist, love the guy. Always got to get a little dig in the English when he can. But also very true as well.
Very true.
But, I mean, wow. That was just an amazing 120 minutes of football. I mean, both sides could have won it as well in stoppage time of extra time. You've got to take your hat off to Martinez for that save on Kolo Muani. Wow.
Kolo Muani is he's at Frankfurt, so I've seen him play a bunch this year. I think this is his first year at Frankfurt, and he has scored some big goals. I think he'll have nightmares about that because he just smashed it instead of placing it, or maybe even trying an audacious chip.
Didn't he score against Morocco?
Yeah,
as well. Yeah, first touch or something like that.
Yeah.
So you know, for me, like. I want to go back to the substitutions. I think the person, and I'm only mentioning this because I mentioned him in the pre-show, Camavinga, when he came on the pitch, that basically turned France around on the pitch for me. I'm surprised he didn't start or play more. That guy is such a big talent, such a young player, and I think he could have. He's very similar to not in play, but in the impact of midfielders is. Bellingham is to England, and Musiala is to Germany.
The thing
Those
is,
three guys are going to be future star midfielders for.
Totally, yeah. Camavinga is awesome. He's actually, he's a central midfielder, left-footed central midfielder who they brought on for Hernandez, and he slotted in at left back. But he also, did great going forward. And it was those 2 double subs. It was the one in the 40th minute, and then it was Camavinga and Coman coming in that, ultimately, helped equalize the game in regular time.
When you've got 3 penalties in a World Cup final and a penalty shootout, I mean, that is something else in itself. I thought it was interesting in the shootout as to when Mbappe and Messi would go, and they both stepped up and they both went first.
Yeah.
And Mbappe was fortunate. Messi was also fortunate as well, because there wasn't a lot of power on that one from Messi, and the keeper had readjusted but just couldn't get back to get to it. I thought the keepers, on the whole, they did excellent in this shootout, but in the end,
I don't know. I'm not the Hugo Lloris's movement was very odd to me.
Yeah,
and when he was taking the penalties, it was the way he was diving and everything. It doesn't seem natural to me. He was very. I feel like he overcommitted.
Back, then.
Yeah, he sometimes I feel like he overcommitted, and sometimes he didn't. He was very hesitant. There was some issue with his movement on the line.
And I'll correct you guys. I don't watch enough Premier League, but my understanding is he has made like lots of quality,
penalties.
Yeah,
penalty saves in the Premier League. But I felt like was it Messi's and the second one, maybe more so the second one where it was Dibiala's where he
the one that was right down the middle.
Yeah, where he does the fake like I'm going this way. But he then dove that way. It's like you don't usually do that, right? And
but his leg, his foot just missed it.
If he had done I'm going this way, but really going that way, his legs absolutely would have gotten it.
Yeah. And even the third one, even though he came close to saving that one, that was weird too to me. I don't remember the fourth one at all.
I said to Kirk when I saw Coleman going second, I said he's not going to score. Like I called
it a miss before, as you were running.
I know King. I love him. Scored a Champions League winning goal for Bayern. But when I saw him going second, I just said, Kirk, this is not going to end well. And then when Trumani stepped up, I said, Kirk, this is also not going in. I didn't know he was going to miss the net, but I was just going in.
The mind games got played with him because the Argentina goalkeeper threw the ball away. Basically,
I loved that. I've got to say. I mean, you've got to do some shithousery.
Michael, you would have loved the Argentine goalie because of how he celebrated getting the Golden Glove. Did
Well,
you see
I
that?
liked when he did the little. No, I haven't actually watched the
I
ceremony afterwards yet.
I've just put it on now at home, and he puts the golden glove, I believe, in his crotch, and sort
Oh,
of like
jeez.
it's a little bit awkward. I don't know what his intention was. I had the volume on off when I whatever, but yeah, I think maybe made me think of some of the comments you've made over the years, Michael.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to dig that out. But yeah, Argentina now become 3 times World Cup winners. I've got to say, off their 3 wins, this is probably their most impressive, because obviously the first one on home soil was impressive, and I remember that '78 World Cup, but I was very young at the time, and Mario Kempes was the man,
Yeah.
and Maradona was the man for their second win, and obviously it's now Lionel Messi, and I'm happy that Messi's got his World Cup. For a number of reasons, and Zach's making a face here, but here's why I'm saying that. The chat between whether Messi or Ronaldo was the best
Oh, that's over now.
has been boring as hell to me, because I've
Yeah.
always felt Messi was the far better player. And I think this has now cemented that and killed that argument, or hopefully it has. Obviously, the Ronaldo fans will disagree, but the pressure that has been on his shoulders to deliver for his country, and he's been held up as one of the greatest of all time. Now, Mbappe has that pressure as well, but Mbappe got that World Cup monkey off
Yeah.
his back the last time around. So you kind of saw he can play a lot freer, but Messi's had this baggage and he's had this weight on both his shoulders for so long that
What-
to go
what's-
out like this, I just think is absolutely tremendous for him.
What's your guys' opinion on the Argentina team as a whole? Do you feel like I kind of feel like he's had stronger Argentina teams playing with him before?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, I think
this
we
is probably
said,
the weakest.
Steve, that
Weakest team that he's played on paper. Not maybe obviously effort and everything like that, but on paper, I feel.
yeah, good job the game's played in grass, as I
Yeah.
always say. It's usually the opposite. It's like good in paper, shit in grass. But
Yeah.
this team is definitely not the best Argentina team that we've seen in a World Cup. But they play, I think, more as a team.
Yeah.
And they look up, the younger guys look up to Messi so much, and they want to do it for him. And I think a lot of that has helped. Now, you made a face when I said I'm glad he won the World
Yeah,
Cup.
a couple of things. One is
That's because Germany didn't win. That's why he's making.
no, I mean, well, Germany beats Argentina in the final more often than not, but I don't have a horse in the race of the Ronaldo Messi thing. I don't like either of them. I think they're both amazing footballers. They're both to me so different, right? Like Messi is like a sort of natural, like it seems just like a naturally gifted footballer who also works hard, but naturally gifted and not like a street footballer, but just more different. Whereas Ronaldo, he is like the guy who is incredibly talented, but works ridiculously hard to be as good as he is and whatever. But I don't really like either of them. But I agree with you guys in terms of like, hey, like, Ronaldo or Messi has the edge on him now that he's won the World Cup, and Ronaldo's definitely not going to win a World Cup, which I'm happy about as well. In terms of the only saving grace for me in terms of Argentina winning this and claiming their third is kind of what you guys just said, that although in this game, especially not the tournament as a whole, but this game, the team rose to the occasion, and the way they came out at the beginning, and the way they kept going when things didn't go their way later in the game, like they rose to the occasion. Their will to win was very high, and having Messi and whatever obviously helps that, and he played a big role in that. But I don't see this Argentine team getting to another final even until the next time they have a generational player, right? Which, I mean, when you look at it, that's all that's happened to them, right? They've had generational players in Maradona and Messi, and those players have made finals and won finals and lost finals. And so I don't see, like, I have no fear. Like if you were into betting, I don't see anyone in the right mind saying, I bet Argentina will be in or win the next World Cup final. Whereas France, who I would have slightly preferred to win because of the Bayern connection with the players and whatever, and Argentina not winning, had they won, like you wonder how much they could keep this role going, right? Because their players are so young, or sorry, a significant number of them are so young and still aren't even at the peak ages of their career. And again, so many guys being out of this tournament and not even involved, and the hunger that they'll bring when they come back and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's a little bit scary to think, had they won, what would the Euro have been like in 2 years, and what would the next
the talent that this French side have just now and have coming through, and this conveyor belt they've had is incredible, Steve. And
I think they would have. I think Zach's right. I think they would have been, if they had won today, there would have been a potential for like a three-peat or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about the boys from Brazil and Brazil's dominance in the
3 out of 4
60s and in the World Cup, and it's like this would have been the same for France. Argentina, we won't get into this just now, but if they get given the hosts of 2030 with Uruguay, which I feel they should,
oh yeah,
that could be another time that you see that push Argentina over.
I
but
forgot about that.
I don't fancy them in 2026. I've got to say that.
Yeah.
So this World Cup, most goals ever, 173. You'd imagine that will get beaten next time around with the extra teams in it, but I mean,
well, that's extra games. Yeah, I think that goes about to to something we're going to talk about later on. Is the temperatures that they played in, and the state of the stadiums, and maybe for those who didn't get knocked out of it due to injury, also the form that they're in terms of where most of them are playing their club football.
Where does this World Cup rank for you? There's been a lot of talk that this has been the best World Cup ever, and there's always a lot of a recency bias in these kind of things, because a lot of folk haven't seen older World Cups and whatever. Same with this final, everyone's saying it's the best World Cup final ever, and that is hard to disagree with. There's been some great finals over the years, but this is right up there. Without going back and watching every single one again, it's hard to say. But just for this World Cup in general, just to round this part off, where does this rank for you?
So for me, this ranks and I'm going to give you 2 rankings. I'm going to give you because Canada is in it ranking, and then I'll do the other one. But because Canada's in it, it's probably going to be the top one for now until we see like 2026 come around. It's just because of that bias. But overall for the games, it's got to be up there. I'm trying to find another one where we saw so many upsets like this, and still teams are able to rebound. Like right now, Saudi Arabia could claim a portion of the World Cup because they beat Argentina in the first game.
Because Scotland did that when they beat England at Wembley in 1967. And they're like, well, we've beat the world champs, so we're now the world champs. Saudi did it before they were the world champs.
But overall, I'm trying to think back. I'm thinking I remember 2002 was a good one, just because it was in a completely different place than we were used to. Usually, it was Europe or Africa. I mean, Europe or South America, and this was, I think, Asia. It was the first one in Asia, so that was fun to watch, and there were a lot of upsets there. Yeah, I think it's up there. It's definitely 98 was good too, because you got to see a first time winner that year. But yeah, I'm sure Zach's top ones are going to be the ones where Germany wins. Those are going to be his best ones. But overall, it ranks right up there. If you take the Canada portion up there out of it.
So Zach, just your thoughts on where this tournament sits?
Yeah, I mean, there's mixed elements to it. Like, I agree with Steve. Canada being there makes it incredibly special. Having been able to go to so many games for me also makes it kind of be there. Makes it special. I think in general, the quality of football and number of goals those are nice things as well. But I really didn't like even from the round of 16 onward, I was like, this is not what I would like to see in terms of the teams going through. So I mean, from that perspective, it's kind of like not my favorite, and in that sense. But in terms of overall quality, I think it's definitely up there, and I think it will, like, for the football stuff. Obviously, there's the fact that it was in Qatar and controversies and all that stuff that will always not asterisk it, but that will have a certain perception about it, I think, in the years ahead. But the final, I think, does help make it even that much more special. So I think for me, it's definitely not number one, but it's definitely like up there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always tough to see past the 82 World Cup and the 90 World Cups. I think they were two absolutely fantastic games. I still remember Italy-Brazil in the 1982 knockout stages. That's just like absolutely phenomenal match. And Italy actually, they won the World Cup in 82. They didn't win a single group game. They drew their 3 group games and they won that. Spain were the team that actually lost their opening match in 2010 and then went on to win it in South Africa. But I mean, I think it's right up there. I think it's been an absolutely fantastic tournament. Hope you've all enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage over the last few weeks of it. We're going to kind of round it off in this episode because obviously we've got Zach back on the show. So he's going to share some experiences of his time over in Qatar. And we'll have that coming up in parts 3 and 4 of this episode. Before that, we're going to bring you the next song in AFTN's Festive 15 for 2022. If anyone hasn't listened to the show in the recent weeks, what we're doing is, in a homage to John Peel, one of my icons, and he had his Festive 50 every year, we're doing a Festive 15. It's my favourite tracks. Could be singles, could be album tracks from 2022. We're playing the songs in full at the start of every part, and we're going to be back with the song that's made it in as number 10 after this.
This is Atiba Hutchinson, and you're listening to the AFTN show.
Hey, just to say, you should know, like, so you think you're complicated? Girl, hold my drink, or call a shrink. Let's go deep inside and take a dive, cause in my mind I think we'd be more than sync if I explain some things. Okay, here, I'm quite damaged. Youth wasn't tragic, but later life had it. Took a lot of drinking and drugs to distract it. Then you go numb and nothing really matters. Lost a mate to the cancer, ex through sadness. Even the most beautiful souls can get damaged. Another mate chasing a dragon, then another mate died of cancer. What the fuck's happening? Life is a bitch, I nearly gave up on it. COVID lockdown in my house, I was struggling. Working from home gave a chance I could work in it. Not meeting people was the best thing I ever did. Now can I live? So you think you're complicated? Girl, hold my drink, or call a shrink. Let's go deep inside and take a dive, cause in my mind I think we'd be more in sync if I explain some things. Now what? Okay, so what's next? Should probably move on, I'm not planning my death. Always wrote songs about the state of my head and expressed my duress through a wave in a speaker set. I'm shy and I'm anxious until you put a mic in these parameters, and then I'm kind of fabulous. Pull out my heart when I'm rapping this, put it on the page for analysis. Beats off beats, so that beat suits me, cause my brain's off tracking it. Fits, fuse lit, fusing, put your confusion with music. My muse is a mix of the things I have lived, plus things I would die for and which none left. I'm not even doing my best, I don't really care much anymore to impress. I don't even cut my hair anymore, it's a mess. But I got fitting tones, so the mirror is my friend. Looking Jesus, what about is my sex? Funny at my best, I'm the one in my ends. Fell in love with myself, not again for the first time. Self-hate's there in case I'm needing remind. Complicated track, maybe needing rewind. Complicated guy, maybe out of his mind. Okay, that's about it. So you think you're complicated? Girl, hold my drink, or call a shrink.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's number 10 in our Festive 15 for 2022 from Edinburgh, Scotland, Word, SOS, with a standalone single from August, Complicated. You can get that and all of Word's stuff through word.bandcamp.com. Go and support him, he's a friend of the show, and great stuff from the Edinburgh rapper. But in this part, we're going to start to get some of Zach's thoughts on the World Cup. We're going to be looking at the logistical side and some of the things that he found just in general from being over at the tournament in parts 3 and 4. But in this part, I want to get Zach's thoughts on how he felt Canada did at the tournament. You've heard Steve and my thoughts in the last couple of shows. Let's get some thoughts from Zach now. You were at all 3 games, and we'll speak about the rest of your trip in the next 2 parts, but let's just focus on the Canadian games. So you were at all 3 games. What were your overall thoughts of Canada's performance out there? Did you feel they overachieved, underachieved? Was it what you were expecting from them?
No, I think, well, obviously we underachieved. I mean, we finally scored, but I mean, our finishing let us down against Belgium, and Belgium was more than ripe for the taking. And we really, not just in retrospect, but we really needed to win that game. And we were the better team. And it was, I mean, you guys heard it. I think you guys heard it and felt it in the media here on the ground. Man, there was so much respect for Canada after that game. Like, people, when you meet people on the street before, like the days before, people are like, "Oh, yeah, you're from Canada, that's great," or whatever. And after that game, everyone's like, "Oh, you guys played so well. You should have won. You should have scored." Blah blah. Like, everyone, like, yeah, there was a lot of respect for Canada after that the Belgium game. Now, obviously, the respect shifted a little bit after people saw Belgium was really terrible, and we didn't go on to achieve anything results wise in the final 2 games. But for those few days there was a lot of people, like, they come up to you and they're, "Oh, Canada was so good. You guys were so good."
So before that, folk were like, "Oh, you're from Canada, little tap."
Oh, no, okay, no. The best was on the ground there. My favorite thing, even after that game, but definitely in those, like, first 3 or 4, 5, 6 days, whatever it was, we were there. Whenever you see people, especially when you see people from the other CONCACAF nations, we would just go up to them and we say, "Greetings from the top of CONCACAF."
Very good.
Which was a lot of fun, and they took it well. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Were you proud of how they played?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, in that game, you're so proud. I mean, it's just the finishing that let us down. I mean, Alfonso obviously from the spot, but then the numerous chances that we created later that we really should have scored. And I mean, on top of that, we were robbed of, let's say, 1.5 penalties. Like, the one on Richie Larea was a stone cold penalty that I don't understand. Was Drew Fisher on VAR? No, Drew Fisher couldn't have been on VAR. I don't understand. I don't know how that wasn't given. Like, it was just,
well, the thing
shocking.
is, there was, like, talk, and we mentioned it on previous podcast, that after the game, that the TSN referee that was on the panel or in the studio, whatever, said it wasn't a penalty because Richie Leao moved his way in front of the player. And apparently it's a couple of other instances where that was called. But from what I know is, like, there should be no rule like that, because we've seen it before where somebody is trying to clear the ball and they move in front, they get hit, and it's called a penalty. So I don't understand that rule when that changed, but that's what but most of the pundits that players and everything that were on a lot of panels said that was a penalty.
I watched the BBC coverage out of curiosity to see what they thought, and they thought penalty as well, and that Canada were robbed.
We were watching BN there with Kalen Kyle, and the BN panel was, like, crazy because it wasn't like they have a set panel. It was like they have, like, 40 footballers and they rotate them every day.
Wow.
Oh, really?
It was crazy. The coverage was crazy. But I think if my memory's right, they thought thought there should have been a penalty. And on top of that, so my seats for the Canada games were kind of either, like, next to or above the players' friends and family.
Yeah, because some of your videos you kind of shared with us, it's like Sam's family and stuff, and
so they were all there. So for that game was in some ways the most enjoyable because we were right behind them all, and it was in a place where because we were at the back of the section, we could stand. Like, the people I was with, like, most of them wanted to stand, so we stood. but then when some of the players' families wanted to stand, they weren't allowed to because they were blocking people from the side. So for that game, what happened was Richie Larea's brother Reggie wanted to stand, and they kept on coming up to me like, "Sir, you got to sit down." So we just told Reggie to move back a couple rows and stand with us. So he did. So Richie's brother Reggie, and then also Richie's son also came in that row and was hanging out.
Cool.
And so we were like getting like, yeah, we were just, it was fun to watch with him, and because his brother, played so well in the game. Yeah, it was fun. It sucked not being like having all the Canadians together, and it was not great to be away from the main areas where people were supporting. That the first game was special because it felt like our stadium, right? Like there was very few actual Belgians who traveled.
I was going to say about the atmosphere for the 3 games were all very different because the Belgian fans didn't travel in numbers. There were a few Croatia fans, and then Morocco was just insane because it was basically mostly Morocco.
Yeah, we were on a metro with like some of the most passionate Belgian fans on the way to the ground, which was kind of fun. But in the stadium, it was Canada was dominant. So the support was a little bit better. Like there was a little bit more varied in song, and where we just sang, and then some of the families joined in. So sometimes we were joining in with what the main thing was happening, and sometimes we were so far away and nothing was happening, so we'd sing whatever we want. So it was a lot. That game was the most fun for that.
I was going to ask you about that because you shared a video from the Croatia game where you got your shirt as a tablecloth chant going that you had hoped to, but not many people were joining in with you.
No, not that one. I think that one video that was Mrs. Hutchinson's video. And later they did join in. Like later we got more people join in because behind us there was like further up there was people like Claudio was there. Dean Shillington from 6'5" Sports was a few rows behind us. And so him and his people started to join in and at the Croatia game. But yeah, the Belgian game, here's something else that was special. I don't know if they showed it on TV or not, but I shared it, so you guys have probably seen it. But one of the things that made Canada special as well, and I know you'll have feelings about this individual either way, but was the fact that they had a person on the pitch for each country to help talk about the teams and introduce the teams and whatever. And so we had Brendan Dunlop, and one of his roles, like the Qataris brought these people in from these countries, so one of his roles was to do the intros of the team. And so we had been told, hey, he is going to try and do he says the first name, the crowd says the last name, but it was like if we were told if people don't do it, then they're going to make him say the last name. So enough people had been made aware or whatever. So he starts, and it was just like being at a home game, and it was so awesome and so like memorable and whatever. And that kind of made it like, I don't know, special and started things off on the kind of the right foot. And yeah, it was just so special to be there. It was funny because I totally forgot like that your good friend Michael Terry Dunfield is an assistant coach on the team. So we're standing there. I was like,
I totally forgot that as well.
I was like, Terry Dunfield's on a World Cup pitch down there. It probably would not have been good for him to take the penalty either. But
did you share any toilet space with them?
No.
To answer our burning question?
No, but we talked to Kaylin a little bit because she was down there kind of where Dunlop was, and then which was kind of like right in front of our section for that game. And I mean the Belgium game, we were just and also a Belgium game. The other fun part was that was the only time I got to connect with Luke Wildman, because when we got into the stadium, Luke was like there. He was like right there. He was, I guess, going up to his to the booth or whatever. So we got like 5-10 minutes to talk, and it was funny. He was just like he was nervous. He was just like, I want them to score like right away. He's like, it's like going to be unbearable if they don't score like early. And then we were talking about the lineup, and he told us what to expect, kind of what he thought they were going to do. And we talked about that and the pros and cons of that and whatever. Because Alfonso played left back in the first game, right? Was it the first game he played left back?
Kinda. He played a deeper
Was
role.
Yeah.
It wasn't officially left back.
But it was it was or wing. It was left wing back.
Yeah.
Right? It was like a 5. Yeah. So yeah. So what's
So getting to the end of the Belgium game, obviously, and going into the Croatia game, what were your thoughts about John Herdman's little comment there that seemed to spark a nation?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Like, I think he could take some credit for
Steve and
Croatia
me
making it to the
disagree in
semifinal.
this.
So here's the thing, and Mass said it's right away. Mass is just like, oh, that was really dumb. Like, you've just poked the bear.
That's what I said too.
And I was like, well, it takes the pressure off the players. And he's like, no, you've just pissed off Croatia. Like,
Yeah.
now they're going whatever motivation they had before, you've just increased it. And so I was like, hopefully not. But obviously it played a role for them. So I mean, I think one is I give John the benefit of the doubt. I give him the benefit of, we all make mistakes not mistake. We all sometimes maybe misstep like that, or what can turn out to be a misstep. And so it's, to me, it's not like he should be sacked, or, oh, he's horrible, or whatever. But I don't think you'll see him make that kind of statement again in a situation like that, because it obviously played a role.
And I don't feel like he cost him the game, because they could have very well lost to Croatia anyways, right? But it definitely played a part in the final scoreline, because they were wanting to punish him. And I don't know if you could tell us, but because it didn't show up on some of the live feeds, but it seemed like that they were celebrating right in front of John Herdman after scoring a couple of the goals. That's what some people were saying. That they were, they were running
I don't remember that. The Croatia game, the fourth goal, I had already, that was the game, that was the one day where I did 3 games in one day. So I only had an hour to get from Khalifa up to Al Bayat, which is like the furthest north, which is the most painful to get to. And so
is that Vancouver to like Abbotsford or something like that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Something like that. Maybe a little bit less, maybe more like Vancouver to Langley.
But the train's running.
But the highway's a little bit wider. But no, so when I think when the 90th minute came up, I started to walk along the end. And so when that last goal went in, I was like closer to where I had to meet the guy I was going with. So I was like, I wasn't in my seat. I was like I was behind the Croatian goal when it went in. And so I wasn't even watching where they celebrated. I was just like, oh, this is awful. And then I just waited there until the final whistle, and then I got out of there right away. Which I kind of wish I'm glad I got to see, most of the Germany-Spain game that night at Al Bayat, but I would have, in retrospect, I would have been nicer to hang around longer at the end of the game, and that was even more so for the Morocco game. I really wish I didn't have to leave that to go watch Germany Costa Rica. But
yeah, you mentioned there was a little bit of trouble at the end of the Moroccan game.
Well,
I saw on the Voyagers page as well that folk were saying that
it was right from the beginning, man.
Oh, because they were saying they were trying to get into the section, and
there's a couple things. This ties into some other stuff I know you want to talk about, Michael, but yeah. So there's a longer story to tell, I guess. But so no, there were, like, I was in a WhatsApp thing with a bunch of I was in a couple different WhatsApp groups, and one of them, they were like, oh, there's like fights in the Canada section with Moroccans, and I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's verbal. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what happened with that. I didn't hear anything more about it later. And yeah, I heard that people were talking about it on the forum as well. But the problem was, again, for that game, my seats were next to where the Canadian families were, the players' families, and so yeah, a couple things happened. One was people who came in late. Well, and again, we'll talk about this more later. Is they went, there was an empty seat or two in that section, and so they just went into that section. And so, like, when the horrible first goal goes in, you have this one Moroccan dude on his phone celebrating in front of all the Canadian players' families, and like really kind of like giving it to them. So we just went to the security and we're just like, what are you guys doing? This can't happen. You need to get this guy out of here. So they got him out of here. And then at the end of the game, I went down to because I was like row, I don't know, H or something. So I went down to the front because I wanted to get a couple closer up videos and pictures and whatever, and to take a picture. And Mass came down with me for part of it. But what happened was, because Morocco won, you had all these Moroccans trying to rush to the tunnel, and so they were trying to go through the aisles. And so I was standing on the front row, and I was just like, "You cannot go through here." And finally, security came down and was like stopping, like, so no one. I didn't let anyone go through because, and there was some Moroccans who were not pleased with that. One guy said, he wanted to fight me because I said he couldn't go through. A couple of people were like, "Oh, you," what did they say? A couple people were like, "Oh, you could say it nicer," or whatever. I was like, I said, "You can't go through this section. This is me saying it nicely to you." like it was just like, and then security came down and was like stopping them and whatever. And then again, I this time I had 2 hours to get to the Germany game, but it was still far away. That was at El Thumama. I had to get back up to El Bayat. So yeah, unfortunately, I wish I had stayed longer. This is the worst part. I left, and then later I saw the video, because after everyone had left and like most people had left the stadium or whatever, after the players had gone into the dressing room, at some point later they came out, which I knew they were going to come back out. But Alfonso came into the section because his parents were almost like right across the aisle from me. They were like just in the same row or in front of Sam's family. And so Alfonso comes out, and I watched the video of it, and there I could see in the background Massimo was like fighting off Moroccans, like holding them back and like pushing them. I was like, dang, I could have been there. I could have said hi to Fonzie as he went up the stairs to see his parents. But yeah, I had my own.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a future part.
Yeah, later.
I mean, you've clearly Football Violence Awareness Month has shaped you so much as to what you are as a football supporter now. Let's just a couple last things on Canada. What's your thoughts on John Herdman now? Is he the man to lead Canada into 2026? And do you think he will be the man?
I mean, I've always thought it would be best if he could. I heard some things, I forget where, some people were like, oh, maybe the brotherhood wasn't as tight, and like, I don't know, I can't remember where that was from. Maybe there was issues and blah blah blah. I still think him and his team would be well suited to keep going. I think continuity is better than change. Obviously, this cycle is almost a half year shorter than a normal one, and so I think it would be best for our country, for our chances, for our players, if they stayed, like if Herdman stayed and led the charge. I think he's very experienced in these kind of tournaments. He's now led the men through one. He knows what it is to he knows, at least he has the experience of coaching the women at home in a World Cup, and so I hope he'll stay. Do I think he'll stay? I mean, even before the tournament, there was, talks of, him being pursued for this job or that job or whatever. So I think he'll have options, but I kind of hope he stays for that and then pursues maybe club, men's club football, down the road after that or whatever.
I just wonder, has he maybe taken this group as far as he can, and it just needs a fresh voice in there? But I mean, the next couple of years will be telling, because just to round this bit off, the next 4 years, or I guess 3.5 years, really is what we're looking at. You've got potentially 2 Gold Cups, which is a whole other thing as well. I still think that should be every 4 years, and it's just way too often. There's the very strong belief now that Canada will be part of Copa America, and in 2024, 2025...
That's not official yet, though, right?
It's not official, but it seems all but official.
Yeah.
And I think that's great, because John Herdman's come out and said, look, they need to test themselves against tougher nations, and the Nations League's not going to do that a lot of the Gold Cup is honestly not going to do that. And it's the same for the US and Mexico as well. Copa America will do that. You've also got the fact that John Herdman wants as many of the players to go and play in as top leagues over in Europe as he can, which then I thought it was interesting. Jonathan Osorio this week made the comment when he re-signed for Toronto that basically he said someone has to stay in Canada and grow the game here, and if that is me, that is me, and he hopes to bring a European mentality to the domestic game. I don't know how that sits though with where John Herdman wants things to be.
But the thing, there has to be a balance. You can't have just everybody go to Europe because not everybody's going to get playing time in Europe. That's
There's that as well, depending on what club you go to, yeah.
Some of the fringe national team players might have to stay here if they're not able to get playing time or come back to Canada so they can get playing time.
Well, like Alistair Johnson's a great example because he may not be a starter at Celtic.
Yeah, that's the issue.
I was going to say...
Go ahead.
I was going to say the Richie Larea situation is an example too, right? Like, you can't go and not play. You have to go to and so it's an interesting situation that they find themselves in because it's they're balancing, I think, two primary things. One, the financial benefits for your family, right? So if you're Richie Larea and you can go to a championship club, but you might not play every game, but you're going to get more money than if you went to whatever, League One or Bundesliga 2 or a lower level Bundesliga team or whatever. There's that, the financial side of it, but then there is the professional development side of it where you want to be, one, playing, and two, playing at a level that's going to grow you and challenge you and that kind of stuff. So you're right. I agree with you. I think with Steve, you just said like not everyone can go, maybe not everyone can go to Europe and
like the superstar players, like the Tayon Buchanan, he needs to move up a level from Belgium and that stuff. And maybe a player that we haven't heard of yet goes to Belgium and becomes that, like the level of Tayon Buchanan is. Maybe like a Marshall Ruddy or something like that from TFC. If he can develop into something, he can move into Europe, into that spot. So you need to move players up, but I don't think you can't just push everybody to Europe because that will cause a vacuum or something like that.
But in a couple of things, though, I think the players really have to prove it, right? Like I think Larea proved it, and Tajon Buchanan proved it in MLS. Like,
exactly.
He proved that he was
100%.
Thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Tajon Buchanan is I think maybe hopefully one day he'll move beyond Club Bruges. But I've heard people saying, "Oh, he should move this winter," and I'm just like, they qualified for the knockout stages of the Champions League. Like,
I wouldn't do that.
He needs to see that out, man. Like,
for
that's
sure.
an experience that he won't get maybe for a long time.
And it could be harmful to move in mid-season too sometimes, like to the development. You need to take your time and move in the summertime when you have more time to kind of weigh your options and see what position it is. The part that I would say, like, about I want to go back to Herdman a little bit. The thing is with Herdman, yes, he can. I don't see him like leaving right now, but anything is possible in 4 years. Like we've seen with the semifinalist Moroccan team that the guy took over in August.
Yep,
and he's got them to the semifinal. So this could be like a in the last year or the 2 years down the road there where there's a change. So right now, I don't see any problem. I see Herdman probably staying with his club just because of Canada's where everybody thought they were going to do and kind of where they kind of slipped to in the World Cup. He's one of the things now. One
of the things with the Moroccan coach, though, right, is and we talked about this before the tournament. The thing was the previous coach. One of the issues was he had issues with his management or whatever, like where he had a relational breakdown with two of their most talented players in Ziyech and Mizrahi, and I think maybe others. And so that them changing the coach allowed some of their top end players to come back into the team and
I like Herdman, but and I'm not saying that it was his fault, but he's had one issue currently with a player on the national team, Arfield. And I'm not saying a lot of people are saying it's Arfield's fault, but it has happened where a player that everybody considered one of their top players left the team, basically. And it obviously kind of was proven to be the right move for Canada, but it was a move where a top player left. So I'm not saying it's possible, but you never know what's going to happen in 2 years. People get tired of the message sometimes. Like
Yeah, see that's
like her.
that's what I'm thinking could be the case. I'm like, I genuinely think that unless John wants to step away, the job is probably his to 2026.
Yeah,
And he does
for
have
sure.
that
Yeah.
contract.
I think so.
But if, say, by end of 2024, he hasn't maybe taken that next step with the team, and there's maybe been a bit of regression, and if there's a feeling that he's maybe not getting the best out of the players, then I do feel the question needs to be asked: has he taken
Like,
them as far?
what
Has the
year's
message
Copa America?
on its way?
Copa America's in 2024.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, what if they completely crash out in Copa America? Then at that point, you might have to think, you got 2 years to build to this World Cup.
Because that's a good test for them. That's the test that you're going to be having in 2 years after that at the World Cup. So all very, very valid. So that is it for our chat about Canada and Zach's thoughts. Just wanted to get that because you've obviously heard Steve and my thoughts, and we've not had Zach on for the last couple of weeks. We're going to get some of his thoughts now in the next two parts, just about some of the other things that he saw over at the tournament, logistics, the stadiums, merchandise. And we're going to be back with the first of those chats after this.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
People talk about the right way to live. Shut up, you don't know what you're on about. You voted for him, look at you dirty rat. People talk about the right way to live. Shut up, you don't know what you're on about. You voted for him, look at you dirty rat. Blaming everyone in the hospitals, blaming everyone at the bottom of the English Channel, blaming everyone who doesn't look like a fried animal. This is espionage, and you're the self-saboteur. This is espionage, and you're the self-saboteur. This is espionage, and you're the self-saboteur. This is espionage. Travel through the funnels of my country. The resin-coated dead egg of nowhere. The balance on the scales and the bag of fucking lies is unequal in my lifetime. And my heart will bleed. It's just a separation. A fake card in a fake bank machine. There's no consideration for my heart. And my heart will bleed. It's just a separation. A fake card in a fake bank machine. There's no consideration for my heart. People talk about the right way to live. Shut up, you don't know what you're on about. You voted for him, look at you dirty rat. Blaming everyone in the hospitals, blaming everyone at the bottom of the English Channel, blaming everyone who doesn't look like a fried animal. People talk about the right way to live. Shh. Shut up, you don't know what you're on about. You voted for him, look at you dirty rat. And my heart will bleed. It's just a separation. A fake card in a fake bank machine. There's no consideration for my heart. And my heart will bleed. It's just a separation. A fake card in a fake bank machine. There's no consideration for my heart.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio. And kicking off this part, it's number 9 in AFTN's Festive 15 for 2022. That was Orbital and Sleaford Mods. Dirty Rat, a single released in October. It's going to be on Orbital's 10th studio album, Optical Delusion. That's getting released in February. Orbital, a big dance band that's been going since the late 80s, really were quite big. Headlined Glastonbury one year as well in the mid-90s, and that song's got that 90s dance techno beat to it, featuring former Artist of the Month Sleaford Mods as well. Really enjoyed that one. Dirty Rat. We're going to be chatting in this next two parts about Zach's experiences in Qatar. I would imagine you didn't see many rats over there. It seems a very clean country. Everything that you've seen in all the broadcast, there's no litter, there's nothing. It just seems they've been meticulous in getting everything off the streets. And that probably includes protesters as well, I'd imagine.
We'll get to protesters later. When you go to a World Cup and then you watch stuff from it on TV, it's really, really different. I remember in 2006, I kind of did the opposite, where we watched the very beginning at home, and then we were there for like the final 3 weeks of it.
Oh, right.
And so it's just...
Yeah, because when I went in 94, I went for the group stages, and then we flew back, and it was weird then being home watching it.
It is very weird. It's very different, Obviously, it's always different, being in the stadium versus watching on TV. But no, I mean, I wondered that about rodents and stuff. But there were a couple places where you did see those little, black boxes outside of places, in case there were any.
I've got them all over my townhouse complex here, so I don't know if we talked about this. I had a mouse problem two years ago in the house here because they'd done some work in the place underneath, and mice had got in and got up, and initially I was catching and releasing them and driving like 20 minutes to release them, so I didn't want to kill them. After you've done that 10 times, the black boxes come in very handy.
You have to be more careful with the crumbs from your chocolate digestives.
That may have led to it. Don't leave them out. I don't remember nibbling that many of the packet.
But no, it's very clean place in general, totally. But there's a lot of construction going on all over the place. Like there's a few,
and there's probably going to be a lot of deconstruction as well from a lot of these stadiums as well.
The time on that is kind of, we'll wait and see, I think, because I was talking to a friend of the show, Simon Fudge, about that, and how they might use them at other tournaments first, and what parts are being taken apart, and how and when, and
that's good actually, because you don't want white elephants. Because I went to Greece 2 years after they had the Olympics.
Oh yeah,
and the amount of things that were just sitting in ruins, and it was just so sad to see.
Yeah.
Well, Greece is used to having ruins.
Oh, that's very true. Actually, Brazil, I was at Olympia. That's what I'm thinking about. It wasn't Athens.
But Brazil has that too, right? In some of their stadiums that were never used again.
Whereas that one that is like a bus depot or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. That is always sad to see. It's a good thing that we're going to have here in 2026. At least the stadiums already exist.
Yeah. So no, I mean, Qatar in general, though, you're right, is a very, very clean place. Like the metro and stuff. Like, I mean, it's brand new, but it's very, very, very clean.
So,
except for the sand.
Yeah.
No, there's like no sand, man. The sand is all in the desert.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's very little. I was worried about that. I thought, I'm gonna have sand in my shoes every day, or like whatever. No, like very little issues.
How would you sum up your whole experience over there?
I mean, the Qatar World Cup is a weird thing, right? Like, whatever, it got announced, what, like 12 years ago now? It was 2010. It got the was that 2010? I think it was 2010. So I mean, the Qatar World Cup has been this kind of thing that, I mean, the Russia World Cup had its detractors, right? The Qatar World Cup obviously has had far more detractors for the human rights issues and the labor stuff and the LGBTQ rights and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think having gone in 2006 was like a dream, because it was in Germany, and it was kind of like essentially my wife and I, it was like our honeymoon. We didn't really go on a real honeymoon when we got married in 2002. We just saved up for that. And I remember saying to my wife at the time, "Hey, I promise you, I won't go to another World Cup until Canada's in it." And so, so we've been excited and planning towards 2026, obviously. And then last year, when things started to go well in the qualification process, I was able first off to go to the last four home qualifiers, two in Edmonton, one in Hamilton, and then the clincher in Toronto, which was amazing. And all along, I was just like, I want to be there. I want to be there to see it. I want to be there to support Canada. And my wife is, very, very supportive all along. And obviously, I have friends I was going to travel with and all that kind of stuff. And so, is it okay if I just tell a little bit of story of
Yeah,
okay.
because we've had a lot of questions
Yeah.
about your trip and
Yeah.
how you got there
So-
and stuff. So yeah, let's
Yeah.
get into it.
So yeah, I always planned to go, and I always had, and there's some people I was going to be going with and whatever. And then I had some issues. I had some issues around ticketing, which led to issues around accommodations, because if you know the process, those are linked. And because of that, it was very, very, very frustrating, to the point where the person I was going to go with we were kind of like, there's a chance this might not happen. Right? Like, yeah. So anyways, but there were obviously always hope. There's always hope, right, Michael? I'm a hopeful fellow, right?
There's still time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you kept telling us.
Exactly. So anyways, one day in middle-ish, was it middle October?
Yeah, I think
was-
that was when you kind of mentioned you might be going.
Yeah. So middle sometime in October, I was searching my junk mail on my primary email account, because I was looking for something that I thought was supposed to come to me, and it hadn't come to me. And as I was searching through my emails, there was this email from this person who's I never met before, but I knew their name. And it was one of those emails with like, like the exclamation mark, like this is important. And so I opened the email and I read it, and I was just like, I got to read this again. I had to read the email like 3 times for it to be like, this doesn't sound right. So I got this email from this guy named Lee Cormish. So Lee Cormish is this dude who's, I don't know, gone to the last 5, 6 World Cups, whatever. He's from Saskatoon, and he's like, has like a YouTube channel, and he talks about his trips and blah, blah, blah, whatever. Anyways, over, I don't know, a year ago or so, as the Qataris, like as hosts, right there, one is they wanted to portray their country in a good light, obviously, but they also, like, they wanted to be able to express, I think, how they as a people are like very hospitable, right? Like hospitality is a big part of their culture, right? And we saw glimpses of that when we were there, as there was Qataris who like invited us into their homes to like get to know the culture and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so they wanted to they developed this program where they had a fan leader from all the countries that either had qualified or were maybe going to qualify or whatever. And so this guy Lee became this like fan leader for Canada. And so he had meetings with them and all this stuff. I think he went to the Arab Cup last year to see some of the stadiums and whatever. And then at some point along the way, they decided in their fan engagement kind of circles or whatever, the part of the Supreme Council that, is essentially, it's like the local organizing committee. So the local organizing committee said, hey, we want to have representatives from all the hosts or from all the participating nations at the opening match, because there's some stuff we want to do, and we would like to have like some actual fans from the actual countries. And I think they knew that wasn't going to happen, in and of itself, partly because of, the travel and the expenses. And, if you're coming to see your country, you might come like the day or two before they play, but you might not be there for the opening. Plus, they also, I think this might have been even after, they moved the opening game. I don't know if you remember that. They switched. The opening game was supposed to be a day earlier. So
Yeah, because they wanted it to be standalone. Yeah.
yeah, and so they had some issue. People had issues with that, because of their accommodations and flights and whatever. Anyway, so they started this. They took these fan leaders they had from around the globe, from the participating countries, and they told them all, look, what we want is we want 50 fans from each country to be a part of the first match and a part of the opening ceremonies. So they said, we want you to have people from your country walk through this application process, and we will fly them here. We will put them up in accommodations. We'll give them a match ticket for the opening game because we want them to be a part of this opening ceremonies. So that's what this email said to me, essentially, like, hey, there's this opportunity. You've been invited to apply for this or whatever. And so I was like, this just sounds crazy. So one in the
Well,
email,
it's like one of those things. It's like, if it's too good to be true,
yeah.
it's like,
Is it a scam?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So in the email, Lee had sent his cell number and said, if you have any questions, call me or text me. So I actually, even before I messaged him, I messaged a couple Canadians who I thought would know about it. Some people involved in the supporter community, and then I also messaged Simon and said, hey, do you know about this thing? And I think I didn't call it by its right name, and Simon's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But then some of the people in the supporter community said, yeah, I've heard of this thing. It sounds crazy, but yeah, it's legit. And so, and then I messaged this guy Lee and I said, hey, like, I forget what the first few questions I had for him were, but so I messaged him and he said, yeah, and the thing was, this thing was in my junk box. So like I opened this email and it was like, you have to apply by like whatever the date was, and I opened it like the day before or whatever. Like I had like no time to whatever. So I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna apply and see what happens with this. So I applied, and then I had to wait a week or two or whatever it was. So that's why when the podcast, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going. But I don't know, like I think I'm now confirmed that I'm going. Anyway, so yeah, I got an email from the fan engagement part of the Supreme Council, the local organizing committee, and they were like, yeah, you've been accepted to be a part of this. You fill out some more forms, and so we can, for flights, like what dates and whatever. And they wanted people originally that, like, if you were going to be a part of this, you needed to be willing to be there for like 2 weeks, which was fine for me because I was planning on going for 3 weeks anyways, because my goal, as you guys know, was ideally to see Canada and Germany play in the round of 16, because I've been to all the other times that Canada and Germany have played at the full men's level. And
so was there a reason that you had to be there for the 2 weeks?
well, no, they didn't know. So later on, obviously, things came out in the media about this program, and like, I'm not a big like fake news kind of person. I mean, I've dealt with media stuff before where the media has more so ignorantly misrelayed the truth, right? And you and I have talked about that before, Michael. But some of these reports, the one out of Holland and definitely the one from the New York Times, were like totally like portraying some of the important things.
Because for anyone that isn't sure what we're talking about, there was a series of articles, I think the Guardian did one as well, basically saying that these fans had to then promote Qatar through their social media. They had to report misdoings that they'd seen, basically spying on other fans, be peacekeepers, etc., etc. But because when you told me, oh, this is how I've got here, and I was like, oh, so have you seen all these articles? Is this what you have to do? And you're like, no, not at all.
Yeah. So those articles came out, and I was like, well, what is this? So everyone, I messaged with Lee Cormish and just said, hey, like, what's all this about? Like, because there was things we had, like, there was, like with anything, there's like, this is what it involves. You have to read all these things or whatever. There was nothing about any of that stuff and any of the stuff that I'd been given. So right away I was like, this isn't right. And Lee's like, yeah, this is not true. And then the local organizers emailed everyone who was involved and said, hey, you might have seen these these reports in the media. We just want to reaffirm with you that this is not true. We're not asking you to spy on any fans. We're not asking you to speak well about the tournament. We're not asking you to do whatever you want. but we want you here for this. I mean, the reason is we're there for this opening ceremony thing. So yeah, so that was kind of weird or whatever. And then literally, yeah, the only thing we needed to do was like go to that game. And so that was where things were a little bit weird, because we were like, okay, they're like, there's going to be a Canadian chant, and then later we found out there's going to be the Canada chant or whatever. So I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, we just want you to chant it in the opening ceremonies. And then later they said, okay, the Canada chant is after the Tunisia chant, and it's at this minute and whatever. And so we were like, okay. And so,
Which
so
was
then we
weird
get,
because I watched bits of the opening ceremony trying to see, and it was like, I don't
yeah.
understand what all this is about.
So yeah, so when we got to the stadium, well, first off, I was just like, how is this going to work? Like, this doesn't. There's no rehearsal, and like, I was like, this is not going to work well. And then we were even told it's going to be like 15 seconds or something. Like, it's going to be like really short. Like, it's going to be, you know, whatever. So we got to the stadium. Our seats were. So we had, the one thing is we had to go. We had to go the day before, or no, even by the day of. You have to go pick up your ticket for the game. It was a physical ticket, which was kind of nice, as opposed to the digital ones, which
Oh yeah, like for me as a collector, that would be
Yeah.
a dream to have an actual physical ticket.
We'll talk about ticketing later.
Yeah.
But so you had to go pick up your ticket. And so when we got to the stadium, our seats, they were like category 1 seats. But so that meant, so category 1 sounds nice, but it doesn't always mean that it's nice. We were category 1, so we were right at midfield. But my ticket was like in the second last row at the upper deck.
Yeah, because I saw your photos and I was like, actually, a lot of your photos, you are very up high in these stadiums.
Yes, except for a few games. So my Germany game, my seats were really great. So we're up there, and I'm just like, how is this? I was like, this doesn't add up. So anyway, I was like, there's no way. And like, we're in the dark, like we're like under the roof. Like I'm like, because we always thought, okay, they're gonna like show us singing or whatever, right? Like that's what it made it sound like. But anyways,
that's what I was expecting to see.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing was, so it wasn't us singing, it was just a recording. So there was a recording of all these different chants, and it was a part of the opening ceremonies. And they only showed like maybe not even like maybe a quarter of the nations. And you could see they went on their fans in the stadiums, and they weren't something like we were all together. It was like they were all over the stadium in different spots. And so the ones that they put lower or in better lighting, they showed them kind of when that 15 seconds was happening. So for ours, like it was like over. So it was kind of just really weird. It was just like, okay, that's why we were here. And okay. So yeah, it was what it was. Now I know.
So it was over in 15 seconds.
Yeah. It was over very quickly.
The title of my sex tape.
So I know. Look, I know that some people are against the tournament being in Qatar. Period.
Yeah, because you will get folk that will say, "Also, you took money from the Qatari government."
Yeah. And so I understand that some people will not like that, or some people will be like, "Why did you get this opportunity and others didn't, or whatever?" I got nominated, whatever.
I mean, you have been heavily involved in supporter culture. It's like, I mean, there's a couple of other folk I know that got to go that I'm like, I have no idea how the hell they got to go. But I will not name names.
I'll just give clarity to that. Okay, so yeah. So the Canadian delegation, which I think there was only like 40 of us, I think.
Because there was some cancellations or something, wasn't there?
Well, yeah, there were some cancellations. At least one of them got filled. But like, yeah, some people, like one of the people who you would know, they got a new job and so they couldn't go. Another person had visa issues or whatever, or passport issues. But no, it was a little bit weird. So I heard about this thing, and I talked to some people in the supporter community and this guy Lee and whatever. But then when I was added to like a WhatsApp group of people who were going, and you just kind of thought like, hey, it's a Canada delegation, so it'd be kind of like spread out across the country. But it wasn't like that at all. It was very heavily centered out. So no, yeah, but not the center of the universe you would think, Steve.
Oh, okay.
It was there was a lot of 306 numbers in the in that
You,
chat.
you need to explain what that is because I don't know what that is.
I don't recall 306 area code either.
306. Well, I know because I lived there for 4 years. It's Saskatchewan.
Oh, so
Oh,
like,
where of course Lee comes from.
Lee is from
interestingly.
Saskatchewan. Yeah, and so like the delegation was
All
like
right.
almost, let's say, roughly 75% Saskatchewan.
I mean, I've got to say, the thing that rubs me up with this is him being called fan leader. Because if I think of a fan leader in Canada, I think of like Jamie from the Voyagers.
Right. Yeah.
I think they may got him because if you're saying that he's done YouTube videos about like
totally.
so he's
Oh yeah, that's what they
social
wanted.
media wise, he's got social media presence.
And let me say, Lee is a very nice
Oh
guy.
yeah, I don't know him from Adam. I'm not criticizing him. It's just I don't like that term fan leader. That's just.
Well, it's yeah. There's a few. So, anyways, I know there's some people who don't like the term music guitar. I know some people will be upset or disappointed or not like the fact that my accommodation and flight were paid for to be a part of this program.
But everything else you paid for out of your own pocket. Let's stress that as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there was one of the articles or whatever. So this is one other part of the story. So a few weeks before, they sent us another email, the local organizers, and this was actually, I think, where some of the more secondary and tertiary articles came out about this program. Was they sent an email to everyone, and they said, "Hey, we want to you're going to be here for the 2 weeks or longer. We want to help cover some of your food costs while you're here, and some laundry and some incidentals." So they're like, we know you're going to have incidental costs. And again, this is, there's two ways to see this. There's, the sinister way to see it, but I really think it was an expression of the hospitality of their culture. And
you would say that, Zach, as a person of the Qatari state now.
Oh my, not exactly. So they said, hey, we want to provide some. So we're going to give you a Visa card, and we're going to put 250 Qatari dollars, which is like, that's what a category 3 ticket is. So like 90 to 100 Canadian dollars. We're going to put that on there so you can buy food and whatever.
Okay.
So that's I think when the articles from some of these places, it said you're going to be paid to be
paid
there.
Fans and stuff.
Paid fans, right? So then again they sent this email saying, we don't think these media reports are wrong. So the New York Times article, you might have also seen the tweet from the guy from the States, where he said, I told the New York Times all this information and they chose to ignore it in their article. Now, the Americans, a bunch of them pulled out of the delegation after these articles and stuff. So their delegation, I think, was smaller than even Canada's. When Canada's, again, was, I think, smaller than it was supposed to be. But yeah, so this happened. So then what happened was 2 days before 2 days before we were supposed to fly, 2 days before I was supposed to fly, we got another email from the organizing committee, and they said, hey, because of all these erroneous media reports, we are not going to give you this Visa card now, which was, well, whatever. It is what it is. A lot of people were a little bit frustrated because a lot of people had bought more match tickets because they're like, well, I have my food covered, so I'm going to buy more match tickets. So it was a little bit of an issue. So in the end, one thing that they did do was they provided some there's these vouchers for food at the Fan Fest. So it was like one food item and one Coke or water kind of thing at the Fan Fest, and they provided like a dozen of those for people who were in the program.
But I can see how it looks to the outside, though, that they were paying fans to go over.
Yeah, and I do think it's more than what Canada used to pay the players for meals as well back in the day.
Probably might be
when they were on the national team.
But I mean, I'll be totally honest here. If someone had offered me a trip like that, I'd have taken it. And maybe that says stuff about me. I am Scottish. Yeah. I would take anything that's free that's going. It was the heat that would have put me off, but we'll come to that in a sec. But
I will say, Michael, along those lines, my wife was very pleased when I told her that, hey, that I wouldn't have to pay for the fly or to stay there. She was it made her feel better about the trip.
Yes. I would have certainly made mine feel a lot better. Last thing I want to ask you then in this part, and then we'll cover a lot more of this stuff in the next part, but what was the accommodation like in general? Because obviously there was number of different accommodations, and I saw some horrendous videos at the start where things weren't even finished yet. And then, of course, there was the tents on the beach, which did they ever happen? Because I never actually saw anything about the tents on the beach.
I only visited the one fan village, and I could tell you stories about that later. But
because the fan village was the porta cabin things, wasn't it?
Yeah,
was it? Yeah. And I know there's the cruise ship as well, which would have been the nice way to go, but I believe that was very expensive.
Yeah, and the cruise ship was definitely something. Actually, I was looking at staying in. It was definitely an option. Although in the end, I'm glad I didn't stay there because they were a little bit out of the way.
So you might not have been able to get around as well.
Except for games at the 974 stadium, they were kind of out of the way. So we were all, I was, we didn't know about our accommodations were until I think like a day or two before we left. So we didn't know. There were some people who said, as I was in this WhatsApp group with people, they're like, hey, they've heard from other countries around the world that were a part of this, that it was going to be either a hotel or an apartment. And so in the end, we stayed in an apartment. And so they sent us a picture, and at first you see the picture and like, okay. Because it just is like the gate into this it's like a gated community. And so we stayed, but in the end, it was quite nice. So it was like in each apartment there was 3 rooms, and one room had a queen bed, and other rooms had 2 single beds or whatever. So there was like 5 people in each room. And so I got to stay with
each apartment.
Each apartment. There's 5. Yeah. So I got to stay with like, 2 people I knew really well and beforehand, and then 2 dudes who you
knew really well by the end of it.
Yeah, 2 dudes from Saskatchewan who I had some things in common with, and some, had some rivalries with schools that they went to when I was going to school in Saskatchewan and stuff. So, so that was kind of good, and they were just really, really nice dudes.
What was the heat like in general, and what was the heat like in the accommodations? Because I've heard a lot of stuff, like you've told us stuff, and other journalists and people that's been there said, and we touched on that at the start, like the air conditioning's been cranked up in some places, so that there was a few times you were like, it's freezing here.
Yeah, so the heat, like when you get off the plane, like you feel it, and it's humid and stuff, and you're sweating and whatever. But honestly, like I was hardly ever up in the morning. Like, and like I went to a few 1 o'clock games, like 2 1 o'clock games, like 1 o'clock afternoon games, but usually like I wasn't out in the sun a lot. And so it wasn't.
Yeah, because you don't have a tan, you're not burnt. I'm quite impressed.
Well, anytime I went outside in the sun, and the sun kind of went down almost at like 4 o'clock anyways. So if you went to the 4 o'clock game, I would like wear a hat to the game, and then I would take it off in the stadium, and I wouldn't wear it going home. But so I wore a bucket hat when I was outside, and then most of the days I'd put on sunscreen on my arms, but like I never got burned, never anything. So it was warm, yeah. And like, okay, I mean, I show you pictures of my feet, man. My feet were
you're okay. Yeah, it's not that kind of show. You could probably make some money on that, though.
I did so much walking. Like, everyone who went to games, you did so much walking. So my feet were always so sore. But I remember, like, you'd be at night and you'd be walking around, and it's like not hot out. And you'd be like, "Why am I sweating?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, because I'm in Doha and in the desert or whatever." But so it wasn't like, I don't know, the heat was not an issue in my opinion, unless the only time it was an issue was that the first 1 o'clock game I went to, I was by myself. I was actually with a group of other Canadian guys who had bought a ticket from them on the Voyageurs Facebook page. They had a person who couldn't come, and they were selling that person's tickets. And so I went with them, and at the start of the game, our seats, we were in the upper deck, but we were at the El Janoub, the most southern stadium. And our seats weren't in the sun, but as the half went on, our seats moved and we were in the sun. And I was like, okay, it was great to meet you guys. I cannot stay here for the second half. And otherwise I'm going to melt. And so I moved to another open part of this, like I found a seat in another part of the stadium that was covered. Actually, and I hung out with Jeff Spills.
Salisbury?
Yeah, Jeff from Saskatoon, who was not a part of the delegation.
Okay, I was going to say,
from
everyone from Saskatoon. There was no one left in Saskatoon by the signs of it.
He was there, so I hung out with him in another part of the stadium, and we met. There was a player there I met him on the concourse, and he was talking to a player who had played for the Atlanta Silverbacks. And it was just a weird thing. I was like, "How did you meet him?" He's like, "I just started talking to him," and he said he played for the Silverback. He worked for some football company, so that's why he was at the tournament. But so that was the
Yeah,
only
'cause
day.
you sent us pictures of players, random players, and I still don't know who some of them are.
Oh yeah. There's one really great random moment. I'll tell you about later. But
Yeah, I look forward to the bumpers that you got recorded for.
I didn't get any bumpers.
I know you didn't. That's why I've mentioned it.
I'm sorry. I barely got a picture with the most interesting person I met. No, okay, so but in the apartments to keep it cool, yeah, I was in my apartment. They every night they jack the air conditioning, and so either you come home and it's like jacked and people are sleeping, or you go to bed and you wake up and it's freezing and whatever.
Because
So
a lot of folk have had colds and stuff, and then the French
Totally.
team going into the final, players have come down
Yes.
with colds, and it's like,
everyone started to have these like a cough or like a. I remember I was hanging with this one dude who a great dude, but I started hanging with him the whole day. He was like, and I was like, I gotta stay, I gotta stay away from him.
he might
I
just
do
be
not
a
want
coke addict.
Well,
Yeah, that's what I was
no,
thinking.
no. I spent enough time with him that I knew he wasn't. But so no, but the one thing, so then in the stadiums, yeah, some stadiums they were like the older, like Khalifa, they had these like air conditioned things where you couldn't really feel it. But the newer stadiums, they had the air conditioning like right under your seat, and if like, especially if there was like not someone behind you, you had it blowing on your feet and on you, and it was freezing. And it wasn't even all of them, because at one point, Mass and I were with my buddy Holger. We were at Japan, Croatia, and we were freezing, but like 4 seats over with the same vent below them, the vent was like shut off, and it was fine. It was just
Wow.
really weird. So we were like, hey, security, like, can you turn down the AC and whatever? It was yeah. So yeah, there was like at least 3 games where I was like, I should have brought a hoodie. I should have just carried a hoodie with me.
Because I guess you're not expecting that, and folk wouldn't be
No.
packed, right? I mean, I would have, I mean, I've come down with a bloody cold here.
So-
I'm pretty sure I would have come down with something worse over there.
So the other thing I'll say too, and this ties into one of the more serious things for the tournament, is the whole becoming sick Grant Wall story. I can totally understand. Like I wasn't working. I wasn't, having to write reports. I wasn't doing anything. There were a few nights though where I was doing work for work. I was doing, administrative work or posting stuff. And so there were a couple nights where, yeah, I stayed up till like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then you wake up at 10, 11, whatever, because you got to be at a game at 1 o'clock, and you need time to get there. And it was, I know this is going to sound like, first world problems, whatever, but it was exhausting. Like you were so tired. And so you had the air conditioning, and you had people even in my apartment, but people in the building I was staying in, both people I knew and didn't know, like you could tell, yeah, they were getting colds. They were coughing. They were like, whatever. And you're just like, everyone was just kind of like, it was a weird kind of grind. Like every day you were like so tired. So days were like, cause I went to a lot of games.
Yeah, we'll cover that in the next part.
So it was like every day I was going to at least one game, and a bunch of days 2 games, and it was kind of exhausting. I can't imagine someone like Grant Wall, who is like going to 2 games, reporting on them, going home, writing more, and like only sleeping 5 hours, and becoming ill, like not feeling well, and whatever. Obviously the autopsy has come out, and it, I heard you guys talk about it on the last show.
Yeah,
and
it was an embolism in the end.
But like the whole bronchitis thing, I can totally understand why he would.
Yeah,
like, he would
I
feel
I have asthma myself, and that's the thing we were mentioning, that whenever it's really hot in BC or Vancouver, we have to have the air conditioning on because it's super hot. But I stay in the air conditioning. I don't move from cold to hot, hot to cold. I stay in one location, so that way I'm not moving around too much. Otherwise, I will get that sore throat you're talking about in cold.
And I don't know what it was for the media members in general, but the other time where I moved in the stadium, we were at Portugal, South Korea, and it was my second time going to the education stadium, and we were like, whenever you're in a stadium and you're like surrounded by people and you knew there was empty seats, you're like, oh, let's go find some better seats. So at the half, I said to Mass, I said, hey, let's look that whole block over there next to the media. it's open, the upper part of it's open, and it's a better view than where we were in the end. Let's go over there. So he's like, yeah, okay. And we go over, and then we ran into Jamie McLeod. He was watching from somewhere else in the stadium. So we all go up in there, and we go into this empty block, which was right next to the media, and that whole block was like an ice cube. It was freezing. So Mass ended up going to the top where he could stand up and like not have the thing blowing on him. And Jamie and I kind of just gritted it out for 90 minutes because we didn't want to go back to where we were before. But it was right next to where the media were. So I wonder.
Yeah, I can assume that the media area was air conditioned.
Yeah.
And that's probably had a huge part.
I genuinely think I'd have struggled in that.
Going from hot to cold to hot is worse than just staying in one temperature for sure.
But let's bring this part to an end. That's some of Zach's tales from Qatar. We're going to talk about some more things, but we'll be back with that after the next song, number 8 in AFTN's Festive 15.
I am Joel Waterman, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Looking through a portal, it's got eyes and a mastery of gravity. I'm lucky to be here now, I was lonely. Talk to me, got a new perspective. The glass in my hand, it ain't exactly full. The place at my table is an empty stool. Talk to me. Try to take hold of me. All I wanted was peace inside a sanctuary. I lived my life so desperate to be in control, scared of getting hurt again. But now I realize it's all for nothing. All for nothing. The bugs that sleep for years. Conditions are ripe, they fly into the sun. The spectacle gets too new, life is always new. Talk to me. From my waking sleep I fear you're planning to prize yourself away from me. You're planning to exit from my misery. I can take a lot, but I'm not prepared to face the alone. Trying to take a hold of me. All I wanted was peace inside a sanctuary. I lived my life so desperate to be in control, scared of getting hurt again. But now I realize it's all for nothing. All for nothing. Your hand on mine, slow rubbing ecstasy of company. I'm facing the lonely night with my fading sight. Talk to me. Many times I faced the wall. I called for the peace and now I got it all. Peace grows into anguish when your heart leaks. Talk to me. Try to take a hold of me. All I wanted was peace inside a sanctuary. I lived my life so desperate to be in control, scared of getting hurt again. But now I realize it's all for nothing. All for nothing. Confusion is trying to take a hold of me. All I wanted was peace inside a sanctuary. I lived my life so desperate to be in control, scared of getting hurt again. But now I realize it's all for nothing.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's number 8 in AFTN's 2022 Festive 15. From Glasgow, Scotland, Belle and Sebastian, a band that Zach likes as well. That is a song taken from their 11th studio album that came out in February this year, Talk to Me, Talk to Me. For me, the best track on the album by a country mile. The album's called A Bit of Previous, so I was kind of hoping it was going to really get back to their early days, their first couple of albums, which are absolutely tremendous, but I was a bit disappointed by the album, I have to say. This is the standout track by far. This is very much early Belle and Sebastian. Also has a very good video, which has a bit of a football theme running in it as well, so check that out on YouTube.
I know nothing of their modern stuff. I just had some roommates from back in the day in college who like love them. So I've been to at least one show with them and enjoyed the show. It was at the Orpheum with like a 12-piece orchestra or something.
Yeah, their last album was good. It was a soundtrack for the Days of the Bagnalled Summer, a comic book adaptation that had been turned into a film. I loved that album. And then I was really excited for this, and I was a bit disappointed, but that track, Talk to Me, great track from them. It's number 8 in our Festive 15. So we're going to just talk a little bit more about the World Cup in Qatar in this part and Zach's experiences there. I want to talk about some more logistics and like getting around, because you did manage to get to multiple games some days. And before the tournament, a lot of folk had talked about, oh, it's a World Cup that you can pretty much get all over the place. But then hearing some of your tales, it didn't seem that easy, and the stadiums did seem a bit further apart than I was expecting. But remember, I did think Thunder Bay was pretty close to Toronto.
Yeah. You'll never have a World Cup again like this unless like they put a World Cup in London. Like you have a World Cup in London and it would be like this.
Well, the next World Cup's certainly going to be very spread over.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite the opposite. So, well, first off, FIFA wouldn't sell you tickets in if you were buying tickets directly from FIFA. They wouldn't sell you tickets to more than two. Like when there was 4 matches on a day at the 4 different time slots, 1, 4, 7, and 10 local time.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't sell you tickets to back-to-back games. You could have like someone else. Someone else could buy you one and like send it to you, and it was no problem. That's why I had three. I could go to 3 games in one day. But
so you could do like 1 and 3, or you could do 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock, or 4 o'clock and 10 o'clock.
Mm.
So getting around, like the setup to get to the stadiums was good. Like you could basically take Metro directly to, I think 5 of the 8 stadiums, like right directly. The Metro goes right there. You get off and you walk a little bit and whatever. There was 2 more where you had a short shuttle from the Metro to the stadium. And then you had the last one, the Al Bayet, where the opening game was, where you had like a 25-minute shuttle, like a longer shuttle from the Metro. So you would take the Metro up to Lusail, the new city they built where the final is being held, or was held. And you take a 25-minute bus up to Al Bayet, which is in Al Khor. And so it was all good. The problem was, though, Michael, is like it's none of these things like take you right there. It's not like being dropped. Let me put it contextually, for the locals here. It's not like being dropped off at Terry Fox Plaza and then you have a little way to get into the stadium.
Or not even like Stadium Skytrain, I guess.
Yeah, it's very much like in Vancouver sense. It'd be like I guess almost like being dropped off at the Science World. Yeah, and then having to walk, but then also
That's
in the
not
walk.
Far.
No, well, maybe even further than that, maybe. But the problem is, Michael, it's not a straight walk. You're not walking in a straight line. It's constant switchbacks in these lines to like keep the flow of traffic.
Oh, right. So it was like all kind of
and then
fenced
you get
off and like Disneyland.
Yeah, and then you get into a line to go through security, and it's about 10,000 switchbacks. And then at security was mostly good, except for, again, they were like wanted to see everything you were bringing into the stadium, and it's like, okay, I'm going to a Canada game later, and I have a Canada a banner I want to hang at a Canada game, and you have to explain it whatever all the time, and so it slows you down.
Wow.
And yeah, like security could be quite slow and difficult, and yeah. And then sometimes even if you wanted to like Uber, so the one of the there's a few things that were much cheaper, over there. Like Uber is crazy cheap in general. Like from we stayed actually the first apartment we stayed in was like 10-minute, less than 10-minute drive to Khalifa Stadium. And it was like in a downtime and non-match time, it was like 11 reals, which is like $3 or something. And so you could take that right to the metro, or you could take a bus. There was also a bus, but the bus wasn't always super reliable, especially on being picked up outside of our place. But so it just took time. Like you couldn't be like, hey, I'm gonna arrive like half an hour, and then do all the walking and get through all the security and be in. Like if you weren't there an hour before a game, you might miss kickoff. Like it was that
And you did miss a few kickoffs.
I missed two.
Oh, just two.
I'm trying to think if I missed a third. I missed two, the two Germany ones, because I was going from far away.
From one game. Yeah.
Yeah. And the one game I had an hour in between, and the other game I had 2 hours between, but it was further away. So I went to Al Thumama to El Bayat, and then it's just a nightmare. It was a nightmare getting out of there. There was problems with the Uber. Same thing with going from Khalifa with issues with the Uber. I had to take another Uber. Then you had to walk a mile to get to the Uber. And
can we just stress as well, we are not being sponsored by Uber?
No,
but if they want to sponsor us, feel free.
It wasn't always Uber. Sometimes it was Uber. They also have their own Uber there called Kareem. So it was Uber and Kareem, and then you just had people who were taxi drivers. Like so people were just trying to make money, moving people around. So
well, that's how I got picked up at the Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit in '94. Yes. I think I've told that story before. It's like just a random guy said, "Do you guys want a lift?" "Yes, please."
Yeah. So, but they were all the random taxi drivers. They were like illegal, sort of. So, they might not get you into the area you wanted to, and then they were always way more. They were way more than what Uber would be. And you could barter a bit.
Christian Jack got taken for a wild ride one night by an Uber that they were in the car for an hour and then demanded more money and were going to call the police and stuff.
Oh, I haven't watched that video. Did he talk about it in one of his videos?
No, he tweeted it out that he'd had a very horrible experience.
Oh yeah, there were some. Yeah, we got taken the wrong way once, but it was innocent and not out of the way. And yeah, there was a couple times where it was like, okay, yeah, the cost or whatever. Or there's sometimes you get out of the Uber and they wouldn't stop the ride, and the ride would go for another like half an hour. And so you just message Uber and say, hey, fix this, and they would fix it. But no, the biggest thing was going to those Germany games. The first time we had this guy, he drove crazy fast, which was awesome. But then he's like, it's going to be 10 more minutes if I drive you around. He's like, get out on the side of the highway, go through that desert ditch, climb over that fence, and then go over this little overpass that went to the stadium. And I was with this guy, Pepe, and who's a Chilean Canadian dude. And I was like, Pepe, can we do this? And we're like, yeah. So we go and we find there's a way to go around the first fence. We get to this next fence, and it was a fence that was kind of more like a wrestling ring. So here, Pepe would have to hold down the bars, and I would climb through. And then I would hold down the wire, and he would climb through the fence.
Aren't you glad we talked about wrestling then?
Yeah. And are you sure that this wasn't you just being a migrant trying to get into another country illegally?
No. Okay. But then the second time I went to the Germany game, we told the driver, okay, we're going to get out, because Pepe and I again, we're going to get out and go across the highway. But Pepe went like in the express lanes, not the collector lanes or whatever. So we have to actually run across a highway, then run through the desert ditch, then go over the fences or through the fences, and it was kind of crazy.
A desert ditch sounds terrifying.
No, it was okay. It was okay.
Did you get any camel rides?
So that's the thing, Michael. I went to the World Cup to go to the football. So no, I didn't do. There's lots of people who went into the desert. They did camel rides. They went on the dunes. They went to.
I kind of meant between stadiums. Could you do a camel ride, like how you get the horse and cart, and you get the?
No, I did see one horse and cart at one point. But no, I did. I don't know if you saw. I did see a camel at one point. There, at the Souk Waqif, there is a camel place where you can literally just go up and start petting the camels, and then after you pet the camels, the guy holding the camel will say, Can you help me?
I'm the only one in the podcast that's ridden a camel so far.
Yeah, I did
yeah.
not get on the camel.
I
did
got
not-
offered camels for Caitlin when we went to Cairo. And then I was quite offended because I found out someone else had been offered more for their wife. Looking back on it, I should probably have taken the camels. Caitlin's just said, hey, from upstairs. Didn't think she was listening.
I have another camel story, but I'll tell you guys later.
Well, yeah, I can imagine with your underwear and the heat down there, you would have had camel toe.
No. No, but transportation in general was really good. The metro was incredibly clean and pretty quick and pretty soon. There's VIP cars where, like, I guess only Qataris can go in normal times. So sometimes you'd get to sit in the VIP car, which was kind of nice.
What about safety-wise? Did everything feel pretty safe?
Yeah. As one of my Uber drivers or Kareem drivers explained to us, he said Qatar is so safe. So I get in every car I get into, I'd say, hey, what's your name, whatever, and then say, hey, where are you from? And then they none of them are from Qatar, right? Like everyone there is not from Qatar, right? Like there's 380,000 Qataris, and then there's like 3.5 million people in the country. So everyone is from somewhere else there. So lots of Bangladesh. There was a little bit of India, Nepal, all over the world. So,
all over Africa too.
Yes, a bunch of Africans. I didn't have a lot of African drivers, but I met other Africans. So they would tell you, I'd say where you're from. I'd ask them how long they've been in Qatar. Usually the average was between 6 and 12 years, or 6 and 11 years usually. And then I'd ask them, do they have any family with them? They would all say no. I say, do you have a community? Like if you're from Bangladesh, I say, do you have like a Bangladeshi community you're part of? And they're like, oh yes, I have many friends here, whatever. And then I'd ask them about, then I'd say, what do you think of Qatar? And I'd say, like, overwhelmingly, there was maybe 3 people who did, like, other than 3 people, they all said, oh, I really like it, or I love it here, or it's great here, or whatever.
Well, they're also probably terrified because they don't know who the hell you are, and it's like you're going to report them.
So the other people, a couple guys were like, I don't really like it. And then one guy was like, no, I hate it here.
I think I mentioned before in the show, my dad lived and worked in Qatar for years. He was based in Doha because he was a manager of engineering. He oversaw the safety on the oil rigs and stuff and did the quality control checks. So 6 months of the year he lived and worked in Doha, and he hated it.
On the metro,
heat, right?
Yeah.
On the metro one day we met this dude who looked a little bit like Colonel Sanders, who, as we were talking to him, he was from America. We're like, where are you from? And he's like, Texas. And we're like, oh, so I'm going to go on a limb and say you're here for the oil and gas industry. And he's like, as a matter of fact, yes, I'm from Houston and I'm here doing this or whatever. He's a really nice guy.
Maybe he was a chicken farmer. It's like you just jump into conclusions there. Because you got to go to all the stadiums in the end, which I know that was something you targeted because you had tickets for 6 when we last spoke, but you managed to get tickets then to see a game in every stadium. So, I mean, I'm envious. I'm envious the fact that you got to a World Cup because it's been so long since I was at one. But to get to all the stadiums, that's a feat that you're not going to get a chance to do that again at a World Cup.
No, in Germany, I think I did 7 out of the 12.
Any favourites?
They're all kind of special in their own right. Like
the one that's got the roof like a vagina.
The Al Janoub?
Possibly.
Yeah, it's called. I think it's called the Stadium of the South, Michael.
Well, that would make sense.
I think those are. It's meant to be. I think like sails or something, Michael.
I think it's a clam. Or maybe it was sails. Maybe I'm mixing things up here.
Anyways, that was a really nice stadium.
Moving swiftly on.
I went to, I think, 2 or 3 games there. I think 3 games there. So the last 2 I needed to get to were Education Stadium, and in the end I got to 2 games there. And Education Stadium was a really good one, and one.
Oh yeah, because I asked you, was there a re-education stadium for the people that misbehaved?
That's what they're renaming it after everybody leaves.
In the Education Stadium, though, you walk by coming out of the way I came out of the metro, there was there's a pitch there, and then because it's like a university city sort of thing, like there's all these schools, but all these
pitches round about it. Because I remember seeing one of the stadiums, there was pitches round about it, and the outside.
They had a pitch next to it with like a stadium that was not fit for CPL, but like with a few more stands would have been fit for CPL. But around it are all these signs of all the schools that have connections there. So it was like Texas A&M and like all these different schools. You're like,
Oh,
what?
wow.
What is it? Anyways, but that stadium, one of the coolest things was because they're trying to control people getting in. When we got out of the metro, we got sent out this different way, which I later found out to be the good way. And then as I was going, they often what they would do is they'd stop you going one way, and then they'd have two different ways so you go. So they're trying to control the flow of traffic and the buildup and whatever. So they sent us this one way, and this way they sent us to like almost like a back entrance that was like hardly used. There was like no one there, and so we got in the stadium so quick. So the second time I went to the stadium, I was like, "We're going to that entrance. Doesn't matter what they tell us." So they didn't want us to go. When the metro, we got up out that way, but then they're like, no, you have to go to the left here. And we were like, no, we're going to this. There's a VIP entrance or something over here. We're going to that VIP entrance over. We were like, we're meeting someone there. We're going over there. So they let us through, and we got to go over there. And so Education Stadium was really nice. I only got to go to one game at Lusail, which is where the final is.
That's the biggest one, isn't it?
It's the big one, which is totally going to be torn down as well, as from what I understand later on, because they have no real reason to keep a 80,000 seat stadium or 88,000 seat stadium. And my ticket
there
for
are
that.
rumors that they might go for the Olympics with
The Winter
Saudi
Olympics.
Arabia.
The Winter Olympics.
The Winter Olympics.
the Desert Olympics. So so I was in this. We were in the 6th of 7 levels. So one of the things about the stadiums is I think it's like, you know how like we build stuff, you have code and whatever. Like a few of them, you're like, I don't think these would pass North American code, because like some of the stairwells and stuff were like maybe 2 people could go through. Like it's like for 2 people only. You're like, this doesn't seem like super like normal.
If there was an emergency, you're talking
about. Yeah, exactly. If there was an emergency to get out of that place, I'm like, there's gonna be some problems.
I mean, like the one that everyone's talked about is the 974 stadium, which I mean, initially I thought it was the number of workers that had died building it, but it turns out it's the containers that has been used in the building of it.
It's also the local area code.
Oh,
974. So it's
I mean, it looked cool. I still can't get my head around how that was built like that. I genuinely. It baffles me, Michael.
Essentially, they built a stadium. They just add the containers on the outside. They're all an aesthetic, but they're functional.
Okay, right.
And they look really good. It looks really fun. It looks different compared to the others. I was really glad I got to go there, because going in, I didn't have a ticket for that stadium, but we got to see Poland, Mexico, which was fun. It was like a high Mexican travel. The Mexicans travel in large numbers. And they didn't really like when I was very enthusiastic at the penalty call. So when Luva got stopped on the penalty, Massimo and I got showered in a little bit of Coca-Cola, which was fun.
See, this is like the Swiss fans shouting me in popcorn in '94, and I've hated Switzerland ever since.
Totally. I mean,
well, it's better.
I don't need new.
I'd rather be showered in popcorn, Steve. Yeah.
No, I was going to say it's better Coca-Cola than other fluids they could have possibly.
Oh yeah, that's true. You're not in Honduras anymore.
Yeah, golden showers.
But I don't need any new reasons to not like Mexico. But I also got to go see. Ended up seeing Denmark and France there, which was awesome because Naz and Minna were at the game as well, and we got to hang out. And that's the night we went to Freetown afterwards. Yeah. Naz and Minna have some stories. I won't share their stories, but they have some stories.
We should get Naz on and chat to him. How many games did you end up seeing? Don't list them all, because we're already at a 3-hour show, I think. But how many games did you end up going to?
I think there were 16 days in a row where I went to games, and I think the total is 22.
Wow, that is insane. I mean, we touched on it earlier, the ticket availability and the empty seats. I take it was quite easy then to get tickets for games, or, I mean, from what we've read, the games had sold out and the locals had got the tickets, but then the locals didn't turn up to games. Is that true? Or, I mean, was it quite easy to get tickets for these games?
Okay, I cannot speak to locals having tickets and not showing up. I don't know about that. I didn't really hear anything about that. What I can tell you is this. Every day you could try and get tickets online or at two ticket centers you could go in person. So for example, the day before the tournament started, it was the Saturday, the tournament started on Sunday. When I went to go pick up my Haya card and I went to go pick up that match ticket for the physical match ticket for the first game, Massimo and I went and stood in the line, the ticket line. And you're out front, you could see there was like no tickets available, or there was like 3 matches with tickets available. And we went in, they were only doing like the next 3 days or something. And we went inside and we're like, what do you have available? And they're like, we have this, this, this. And they were like category 1. And we only really ideally wanted category 3 tickets because they're the cheapest and whatever. And so they were whatever. And then the guy's like, oh, just popped up on my screen. He's like, I have he had, I forget what game we were looking at, but then he's like, oh, I have 6 category 1 tickets, Poland, Mexico at 974. I was like, Mass, let's go. And he was like, no, not category 1. I was like, okay, you're right. Yeah, that's not. And then the guy's like, oh, well, I also have 2 category 2 tickets. They're next to each other. And we were like, we'll take them. And because of the beginning of the term, they were having extreme issues with the digital tickets.
Yes.
They printed our tickets. So they printed
nice.
us the tickets, or we asked, can you print us the tickets? And they're like, okay, we can, but we had to sign a thing or something. So they gave us the tickets. And they gave us the tickets. And then that's how we got them for the game. So we went back to that place a few times. I don't think we ever got tickets again there, but I had one of my German buddies from the Red Munichs, a guy I've known for a number of years. He was just like a wizard at getting tickets, and so he knew what matches I wanted, which state I wanted to go to, and so almost every day he'd be like, "Okay, where do you want to go?" And he got me like so many tickets that I didn't have before I got there. And actually, he's the guy who I got my Germany tickets from. He got me a few other matches that I went to, like Costa Rica, Japan, and Wales, Iran, and Cameroon, Holland, and a bunch of tickets before I even went. Like, he was the guy. He got extras, and I just paid him, and he just transferred to my account. So he was a guy. He's like a guy I trust so much that even one day he's like, I can get you tickets. Can I just log into your account to get them that way? So I was like, yeah. So I gave him my account information. He logged into my account and got them on my account, which was very, very, very, very helpful. He was just a wizard. There was like certain times a day you knew they were going to drop tickets. And so so that's the thing, is on the app and at these physical venues, every day there were tickets that were for sale. Now, there weren't always huge, crazy amounts of them, but there were also tickets on resale. So if you resell a ticket, if you're selling it, you lose 10%. If you're buying it, you pay 5% more. But most of the tickets that this guy got for us were actually like tickets that had not been bought before. So it was just kind of weird how that was made available in that way. And I don't know the reasons for it. I don't know if they were, they weren't locals returning their tickets, because locals had category 4 tickets which were like 40 reals. They were like $15 Canadian or whatever. Oof. And you couldn't, you could use those supposedly, but I never saw any of those. I never got any of those. But and that's the thing, is all my tickets I bought were all face value. Like, I never paid up for tickets. So, and most of them, as I went to, all of them, but maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 tops, but maybe I think 4 were all category 3. They were all the cheapest category. So that helped. Now, when we talk about ticketing, though, we need to talk about this other issue. So the first 2 games I went to the El Janoub in the south. They were 1:00 kickoffs. They were Cameroon games, Cameroon versus Switzerland, and then Cameroon versus Serbia. Both games, the stadium was very empty. Not just the VIP seats, but the whole stadium was like considerably empty. It was like, I was like, wow, like, this is concerning. What happened at the second game was, Al Janoub is a stadium where you have access to the whole stadium. Like, you go on the concourse and there's stairs up to the upper thing. So you literally can go wherever you want, basically, in the stadium. There might have been a cutoff in the middle. I can't remember, but I think you can almost go anywhere in the stadium, or you can definitely go, once you're in the stadium, you can go upper deck or lower deck. So for the Serbia Cameroon game, our seats were in the upper deck, and my German buddy, he was in the bottom deck. And so I just messaged him at halftime. He's like, oh, there's seats in my section. This is my section. You should come in. So Mass had gone to get food or whatever. So I said, hey, meet me at this section. We're going to go meet my buddy. And so Matt, I went down, I found a row, maybe like 10, 15 rows back with like 5 or 6 seats in it. And I just sat in those seats. And Mass came and joined me. And he's like, hey, and so he comes and sits with me. He's like, hey, I just saw like the gates were open and a whole bunch of people were coming in. And so about 5 minutes later, these two good dudes come down our aisle. They're like, hey, are those seats open? And we're like, yeah, go ahead, come sit with us. So you guys sit with us. So then we turn to them. We're like, hey, like, how did you get in? Or like, or do you like? Well, I think we asked them, did you pay for a ticket? And they're like, no, they just let us in. So they weren't. I don't know that they were papering. They weren't papering the stadiums, so to say. They were more like trying to fill in the cracks. And the guys said to us, they said, we were told go between this block and this block and find empty seats.
So in the stadiums, they let you just move around then without.
No, I mean yes and no.
Right, because I can imagine
this sounds
in
like
26 it won't be like that.
No,
this sounds like the Oscars where you just have seat filling.
Oh yeah,
gets up from
the thing was, it was so many people, Steve. It was kind of crazy. So then this is the other thing that happened. So then one of our cabbies told us, he's like, and this was not true. He was a half Moroccan dude. He was the guy who told us there's like 100,000 Moroccans in Qatar.
It sounded like there were.
He said no, it was just women and children that they would let do this, but it was not women and only women and children. So at the Canada Morocco game, we had issues with the Uber, so we got there and we had to walk a long way. And so once we got over this bridge over the highway, and we were kind of at the stadium entrances, I said to the people I was with, I said, look at here. There's this whole crowd of mostly men waiting in. And there's no line, there's no queue. There's just this kind of block of them waiting. I said, these guys are waiting to be let in to fill empty seats. I guarantee you. So when the issues happened at the Morocco game and all these people were going into the, Canada family and friends section and other parts, when I went to the security, I said to him, I said, you can't let these people in. He said to me, Michael and Steve, he said, what can I do? They've opened the gate.
Jeez.
So I was just like, well, what you can do is not let them go in that part of the section, but send them somewhere else. Like, so they were pretty good in the end. They realized that they needed to not have Moroccans in there.
But again, that goes back to what Steve was just saying as well. It's like when you've got then narrow concourses and stairwells and stuff.
And so I think
that's a disaster waiting to happen.
I think they were going, actually, they still have to go through security, I think. So I think that was quote unquote legit. But then because they realized I think probably had created a problem, especially around Morocco. I don't know about the quarterfinal, but I know at the semifinal, because my German buddy was there. He said, because Al Bayat is in the middle of nowhere, and you get off the metro or whatever, like they can't stop you from going there on the metro, but it's literally just surrounded by this green, like a green grassy field in the middle of the desert, right? And so what they did was apparently they brought like police on horseback and like almost like the riot squad to like to block it off further down, where you had to show you had a ticket to actually get to the first ticket place.
Well, that's sensible.
Because they knew that the Moroccans were just gonna try and get in, because they had before. And when we were going in for the Canada Morocco game, there was multiple fans wearing Morocco gear or with Moroccan flags who were being refused entry because either their tickets weren't real or there was some kind of issue. And then there was in the turnstile next to us, they were almost trying to push through the security to get past the one level of security because they just wanted to get in. It was interesting. So obviously in a European setting in North America, that won't happen. Like in Germany, that would never happen. They would, and obviously the hosts, they don't want empty seats. They want the full seats. I don't know, these tickets, these empty seats, were they sold? Again, the question we always ask about stadiums, is it tickets sold, people in the stadium, whatever. Yeah. These numbers are obviously presumably tickets sold.
Yeah, because FIFA said it's the most successful World Cup with tickets sold and stuff and everything like that.
You also did have touts, Michael.
Oh,
so
really?
There's not a lot of touts on site early. There were for some of the knockout games and some of like the late Argentina games and whatever, but StubHub was a thing where people were trying to get tickets off StubHub. And so it was some people had issues, and some people it was okay. And so I know you had people buying them so that they could try and sell them on StubHub but make money. But
Yeah, I know.
you didn't really
touts,
need to.
scum of the earth.
Yeah.
Got to find a way to eliminate that for 2026. We've got to talk about how you went viral on TikTok, on YouTube, showing the. I wish I'd got you that Football Violence Awareness Month t-shirt to wear at that Germany-Costa Rica game, attacking a poor Qatari with a German flag whilst wearing a Voyagers jersey.
No, Michael. Okay, this is a longer story, right?
Oh no.
Yeah, this is
sit back, Steve. Let's get the kettle on.
No, okay. So I'll try to tell this quick. And so ever since the tournament has been awarded to Qatar, the German government and the German media have been very against the tournament being there for all the reasons we've talked about before.
Yes.
So they've been very critical. In 2018, before the World Cup, there are two German Turks who İlkay Gündoğan, who plays for Man City, of course, used to play for Dortmund, and Mesut Ozil, who went and they had a public meeting with Erdogan, the dictator in Turkey.
Yes.
And it was at the time of Turkish elections. And so they have these pictures taking, them shaking hands and then with Erdogan. And the media and the people in Germany were not happy about it. İlkay Gündoğan put up his hand and said, I should not have done this. This was not the right thing to do. Mesut Ozil said, people don't respect me. I've been mistreated, especially after then he went into the tournament, had a horrible tournament, and a lot of people were disappointed in him for that and whatever. And sort of morphed it into a, political, maybe even religious kind of thing. Fast forwarding to 2022. Germany was a part of the discussions over the One Love armband. And then, of course, FIFA said, yeah, you can do that, but we will punish your team by giving your captain a yellow card. The teams in the end said, for sporting reasons, we're not going to do that because we don't want to hamper your teams. The German team, for their opening game against Japan, which I was at, although I was on the other side of the stadium, so I didn't see this when they did it. They chose to collectively, and they're with the full backing of the federation, they took their team photo with their hands covering their mouths and then put out a message saying, you have tried to take away our voice from expressing what we feel at this tournament. Therefore, it's sort of like a protest. The locals did not take well to that. They, I think, viewed it as an affront, to their culture and their values and whatever.
Okay.
So what happened then was, because I don't think he was there before, and this part is just my speculation, so I'm not saying this is fact. But on the last day of the tournament, my understanding is, by the way, there's.
But you say the last day of the tournament, you mean the last day of Germany's tournament?
Oh, Canada's too, but no, which is the real last day of the tournament for me. So on the there's my understanding there's good diplomatic relations between Qatar and Turkey. So about 4 hours before kickoff, Mesut Ozil puts on his social media a picture of him in the stadium where Germany is about to play Costa Rica, and he's saying like, "Oh, it's nice to be a part of at the World Cup." Blah blah blah blah blah. When I get to the stage, so I'm late for the game, right? So I've missed all the pre-stuff, whatever. And I had to help a guy, my buddy Pepe, get to his seat. It's a long story. Anyways, I go to my seat, which is in the German supporter block. It's right behind the goal.
You saw my third row or something, weren't you?
Yeah, for that game, I was in row C. So I go at halftime. I turn around and there's one of my a different buddy, not my ticket buddy, a different buddy I know. And so I'm going, I'm talking to him, and there's this commotion behind us. And so I look behind us, and there are people in the section holding up pictures of Mesut Ozil. And this is very antagonistic toward the Germans are very angry. But apparently it was their way to protest Germany's protest. And so there was a big kerfuffle. Security was there. And everyone, the Germans are like, this should not be allowed and blah, blah, blah. And I said to my German buddy, I said, is there more to this situation than I don't know? And I explained what I knew. And he's like, no, you understand the situation, right? This is what's going on. So, and then I was just like, at the time, I was just like, this is crazy. Because when you go in these stadiums, they look at everything you have and they take away anything, right? The rainbow, people had rainbow flags taken or whatever, or not taken, but you had to leave in a security place and come back, get them after the game. They had anything that like didn't have anything to do with the teams or the game or whatever, they would not let you bring in. They didn't want any messages, obviously any corporate message, but any messages they might not agree with, they did not want in. But I was like, this is strange that they're letting this happen. Anyways, the game goes on. The Spain goes on. That game ends a little bit earlier, and the crowd erupts, with great joy that Germany has been eliminated. And as the final whistle goes, and as I go to leave the stadium, I turn around, and there are all these people who are holding up, and I think they're I don't know who they all are, because there's so many of them. Some of them were either Turks or maybe Muslims who were like German fans. There's a couple dudes like wearing Germany jerseys and stuff and holding these up, but for the most part they weren't. They were like locals or whatever. They're people from all over the world, but they had lined the tunnel around the block where the German fans were on the main level, and looking up to the second deck, they were all hanging off the second deck, and looking up to the third deck, they were all hanging at the third deck, all taunting the German fans, holding up these pictures of Mesut Ozil. So as I'm going up, I say to the security guards, I was like, hey, you guys take away a lot of stuff at the gate that people are not allowed into the stadium because you're worried about issues and you don't want. I was like, how is this allowed? Like, how is this allowed? Like this seemed like this has created problems and is creating problems, and the security kind of didn't really say anything, which was different because most of them spoke a little bit of English, and when you asked them questions, they would speak freely, but they kind of just didn't say anything because they'd been told to allow these things in, obviously. So as a counter protest, as my silent counter protest, as I was walking through this gauntlet of these pictures, I decided the DFB had given out all these flags. Like the German section was filled with German flags. And so I had collected a few. And because Michael, you said you wanted free stuff from the tournament, so I brought you a German flag.
Awesome. So, I'll take anything that's free.
So I just tapped one of the Ozil pictures as I went by.
Yeah.
It looked like a dab. It like a dap, like you were dapping somebody up or something with a flag.
And so
it didn't look like a hit.
I could hear as I went by, they went a little bit crazy, and I just kept on going through the tunnel. I didn't look back. And then when I got through, I could hear more, and I was like, oh, what happened after I left? And it was that dude with the cowboy hat who was talking about the Taliban and whatever, or calling them Taliban, which was, offside in of itself. But well,
there was one guy that actually went into the seats.
In the concourse,
yeah.
I met up with the concourse with these guys who I knew, and they were having it out with people who were walking by them and like putting this in their face or whatever. And it almost came to like, there was some strong things said back and forth, and there was potential for altercation. Security was standing around for all this. Security saw all this, didn't do anything. They just allowed this to all happen. Anyway, so I get out of the stadium. I take the long walk to the shuttle. This is where you got to take a shuttle. I meet up with Pepe. Pepe and I take the wrong shuttle. We took a long shuttle. It took us like forever to get home. So I'm sitting on the shuttle, and I go online. I was like, oh, I wonder if there's any issues about this Ozil thing. So I look up, and there's this Brazilian. I don't know. He's not a journalist, I don't think, but some Brazilian dude, and he's like, oh, the German Islamophone fans are at it again or whatever, and blah blah. And so there's this clip of me, tapping this Ozil thing from the side, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I've been sent that several times. I'm sure you've been sent it a lot more.
The problem was I'm wearing
the Brazilian guy's probably just still sore from 2014. That's why he probably
yeah. So the problem was I was wearing a Voyageur shirt. So I went home. The next morning. I met up with Jamie, and I said, hey, I just want to let you know I'm wearing the Voyageur shirt, and this is this video, blah blah. If it causes any problems, I apologize. This is what happened. This is what I did, why I did it. If you have any problems or any concerns or whatever, like whatever. So so people started to post it or whatever and blah blah blah. And then it is what it is. I think that kind of thing would never happen in Europe or North America, or I don't think you'd even see that in South America be allowed to happen like that, because there was a real potential for like actual violence to take place. Although I think everyone's so afraid of the Qatari laws that no one would really fight. But you saw there was German guys like ripping up the Ozil pictures and like whatever.
Yeah.
The better thing that's come from that clip, I don't know if you've seen it. There's someone took that clip and they used it in a video called the 9 Worst Performances at the World Cup. And the video starts with Thibaut Courtois walking off the pitch, and he smashes the window next, like on the team bench, and I think he might have broke it or whatever. And they show him walking out, and then the second clip is me walking out of the stadium, tapping the.
Superb.
I'll send you that one. You can use that one. Although in the video they do call Canada poor, which I did not appreciate.
So Zach's Football Violence Awareness Month range of T-shirts and merchandise will be out in March. And he's also selected a German skinhead band as Artist of the Month for next month.
Michael.
Merchandise. Don't spoil what you got us, because I want to see it with my own eyes.
I didn't get you anything. So
yeah, okay, I don't want to hear that. Don't spoil what you've got us.
Yeah, that's kind of spoiled it too.
Yeah, I'm ignoring that. I'm hoping he's joking.
Here's the thing. I didn't really buy anything. I think I bought one shirt. Yeah. Because dude, everything that's there is gonna be here in 4 years. It's all like just like pins.
I don't want the ghosty guy.
No, not the ghosty guy, but pins and keychains and plug-in chargers and like anything you can put the World Cup logo on, they put it on. Scarves and shirts and hats and balls and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't buy a lot because I didn't want you
to buy anything. I just wanted you to get the free stuff, but you did say all the free stuff had massive lineups.
Yeah, I did.
And that's without Scotland being there.
There was a Coca-Cola thing, a little Coca-Cola drum that the one time I was there and I was like, oh, there's no line, I'm gonna go. I went up and it was like the place had just opened. It was my last day there. I went up to them, I was like, hey, and they're like, yeah, we don't have any drums. We're waiting for more drums to be delivered.
That's why there was no lineup.
Yeah, well, no one was in really yet, to be fair. But no, I mean, it was crazy. Like there's a couple stores at every stadium, and then inside the stadiums there's kiosks, and then at the Fan Fest there's a giant store and a smaller store, and yeah, I mean anything you could think of, they just put the World Cup logo and the World Cup.
It's going to be even worse in 2026. I mean, we know that.
And then there's a crazy markup for it. But
yeah,
there's some things I'm wondering if they actually can get online, because there's some things like there's T-shirts, like, you know, there's 50-50 scarves for the games, but there was also...
Yeah, I saw some people had them for the Canada games. I don't like those, though.
There's T-shirts for the games, and there's T-shirts for the games, like of the games, like the two teams and whatever, and some had the flags and some had words, and I never got any of those for Canada, which is, maybe when the tournament's here I'll try and get those.
Yeah. So we kind of chatted a little bit longer than I thought we were going to about all the experiences of Zach over in Qatar, but really enjoyed listening to them. Hope you have as well. So we were going to have some thoughts looking ahead to 2026, but I think we'll save that for the next episode, and we'll look a little bit ahead to what we may learn from this World Cup from a United bid experience in 2026, and we can also talk about the build up to that, and maybe the Club World Cup, which, who knows, maybe we could see that over here as well in 2025 as a warm-up tournament. But that is it for our World Cup chat for this episode. We're going to be back talking about the domestic scene with some MLS and some CPL news of the week, and we'll be back with that after the song that has made it to number 7 in AFTN's 2022 Festive 15.
Hi, I'm Derek Cornelius, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Sometimes tense, and I think of other things. Other things I think about our skin. When I think of all the things my mother said, when I think of all the feelings I heard from her, oh, in many, many ways, I'm still a young boy, waiting patiently for 4 p.m. But I loved her with my last breath.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's number 7 in AFTN's Festive 15. English band Suede, Artist of the Month in November. And it's a song I played last month. It's the opening track from their new album Autofiction. It's also their set opener in their live shows just now. That is She Still Leads Me On, a song about Brett Anderson's mother, who passed away when he was in his early 20s, and that how she still is a guiding light to him. It's a song, I take a lot from that with my own mum passing away this summer as well, and it's a very good track as well. Hope you've enjoyed that one. We've got 6 more to come in the Festive 15. Tune in to the next couple of shows to find out what they are. But for this final part of this show, we're just going to get through some of the domestic news that's come out in the last week or so. We didn't get a chance to do a midweek show because I was a bit sick and Zach's schedule and everything to get this done. So we'll start off with some MLS news. It's been announced the schedule is going to be coming out on Tuesday, December the 20th. So watch out for that. You can get all your planning done. The Super Draft.
That's the earliest I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, it is. It's great. But the season is going to kick off a bit earlier as well because they're going to be shutting down for the League's Cup as well. So it's good. You can get your planning in early. The Super Draft, also the earliest it's ever been. It's going to be on Wednesday the 21st. We'll see who the Whitecaps picking that. The big MLS news this week, though, it was announced of the linear TV deal for MLS. We all know about the Apple deal, and we'll delve into a bit more of that into next year. But they've announced the linear TV deal, and TSN will still be showing matches. They'll have an extensive schedule of regular season games. 1 match per week to feature a Canadian team will be on TSN. They will also have 8 MLS Cup playoff matches, and of course there's rumours that that playoff schedule may be expanded into like a group stage. That's still to be confirmed. They will also show the MLS Cup each season, which does need to be on the big networks. And in America, Fox Sports got all these deals as well. They will have the League's Cup. They'll show 12 group stage and 4 round of 32 matches each tournament. They'll have highlight rights, editorial coverage and cross-marketing support. So maybe we'll finally get this match of the day style highlight show that I've been calling out for. I'm delighted by this because I have had genuine concerns about how you grow the league and how you grow the fan base and how you get casual fans to suddenly become season ticket holders, not just here in Vancouver, but across North America as well. I think this is a great deal, Steve.
Yeah, it's not it's better than I thought it was going to be, but I figured they should, like I was talking about like in the past about CPL too, that they should have a game of the week, and that's what they're going to do here.
Yeah, I hope CPL can follow this route.
It's going to be for TSN. It's probably going to be either Toronto or Vancouver. Hopefully, they don't like lean heavily towards Toronto.
Well, yeah, because RDS have got the rights as well. I mean, they might pick the odds. Canadian. I've heard that no team will have more than half of the matches shown.
Okay, I don't think they'll have very many Montreal matches because of RDS. You'll be able to find those on there. So I don't think you'll have RDS. Will probably just have Montreal matches. But it's good to see. I think in the States it's Fox Sports that is going to have the matches regularly. I think they have more than 1 match a week, possibly. I can't remember. But that's good to see. Again, with the Apple deal, I still hope that they have some kind of thing where you can just sign up for Vancouver Whitecaps matches, because I'm not interested.
You can't.
Okay, so then that's an issue for me because I'm not interested in paying that much to watch every team. I wouldn't watch them if they were on free TV. Some of the games that are available weekly.
I mean, Zach, what do you make of this? I mean, they had to get something out there. I don't know how Apple feel about this after all their big exclusive partners, exclusive rights. That's quite a lot of games that's going to be on linear TV now.
It's a little more than I thought would be.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, but I'm not super worried about the MLS schedule for 2023.
No, obviously your mind is elsewhere, but I think this is good, and it alleviates some of the concerns that I had that how do you get new fans in if they can't see the product? I don't like using that word, but
the thing is though with this, the way you say that's a different team, they're going to have different teams every week. So there's not going to be one team being shown. So if you're a fan of one club, yes, you might be able, especially in the States, you maybe see that team every month.
Yeah, that's
on
going to be
regular
tougher.
TV.
Yeah.
And you're not going to, so you're still going to have to, if you want to watch them every week, you're still going to have to get the Apple package. So
Yeah.
I don't think Apple's that concerned about this.
But remember, also
That's true.
the Apple package is included for all season ticket holders, right?
Yes, so they get that free. But that's the fans you've already got on board. I'm more worried about growing this and attracting the new fans.
And when you don't have it on like this free TV, you're not going to get other people talking about it too, like other local sports shows.
Yeah.
They're going to talk about it way less than what it was before.
Yeah, that's true.
Believe me, when the BC Lions were blacked out for home games, when they didn't have enough fans or something like that, they wouldn't show it. Nobody was talking about the BC Lions, honestly. It was just the people that were going to the games.
That's the problem, because a lot of the casual things, I mean, I'm sure there'll be some media deals for people to get it, but then it's like how many of these people are going to want to talk about it? But if they've got the highlights right as well on TSN, the highlights is a key thing here.
And if you could get maybe like a condensed match or something, maybe a half an hour match after the game is over or something like that, that would help as well. So if you don't like.
Well, is YouTube? They did it on YouTube last.
I don't know. I don't know if they'll have 10-minute stuff like that. It was 7. It was 7 on YouTube, and it was you could get 4 and 7.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Some Whitecaps news: Derek Cornelius is not returning to play for the Whitecaps. He's been transferred to Malmo over in Sweden. No amount mentioned in the release. No details about add-ons and stuff as well for appearances or whatever. It's a great move for Derek Cornelius, and it falls into what we were saying at the start of the show about John Herdman wants his players playing over in Europe. Malmo, a team that play in the Champions League regularly. If they're not in the Champions League, they're going to be in the Europa League, so he's getting that experience. I've seen a lot of folk kind of poo-pooing why the Whitecaps would do this, Zach, as well, and it's like, you want to keep hold of him, we need a central defender. Now, if Derek didn't really want to come back and play here, I think the Whitecaps have done well. They've not they've not stopped in his way. From the player, it's the best move, and it's win-win. The Whitecaps get GAM out of this. They can bring a player in. It makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Derek DC didn't want to come back. He wanted to pursue things in Europe, so I'm happy for him. And then I think the Whitecaps will get some funny money to try and invest in the squad elsewhere, or in that same spot.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, Zach. Because I mean, Axel told us one centre back, and then he said if Derek moves on, it would give them the extra money to either put towards this one centre back or bring in a second one. So I think it's a good bit of business by the Whitecaps.
And you're right, the way you said that you can't really stop somebody from moving on, and maybe the way Derek Cornelius plays is not going to fit with what the Whitecaps want to do, and he needs to play in a system that works for him as well, because we want him to get starts. And if he's just going to come back here and he doesn't ride the pine, there's no point of that. So I don't know if he would or not, but it's just and just for me myself, this probably was the second biggest DC news this week. Compared to other stuff that happened in the world.
Yes, the Superman stuff. I've been keeping up to date on that. I've no real interest in Superman, but one of my good friends, Christina, has, so I've been reading her tweets on it. Some other news from around the league. Freddie Montero's back at Seattle. We can't bring him back to Vancouver. Disappointed in that.
Put the coffee on the pot.
James Pantemis has re-signed with Montreal for 2023 with 2 option years. And it was interesting, the press release mentioned that they always wanted to bring him back, but it was just a 1-year option, so they wanted to renegotiate this new deal with the potential to keep him here for the 3 years, is the spin that they've put on it. But it does look now that Pantemis and Sirwa is going to be battling it out for that starting goalkeeper spot. And I think that might surprise a few people, because we spoke to Eve a few weeks ago as well, and the feeling was that they'd been looking to pastures new and bringing in a new keeper.
Yeah, and the thing is with Pantemis, he's going to be much busier based on all the outgoing exits and everything this year. So he'll be busy in the goal for sure. It's going to it could potentially be a Crepeau situation.
Yeah, reshaping that team is going to hurt. Yeah, create a lot more work for him.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for Montreal next year. And Victor Vasquez is going back to TFC, just going back and forward like a little yo-yo. But that's a good re-addition to TFC.
How old is he now? Like 37, 38?
Vasquez is actually just 35. Still got young legs in him. But I think that's a good addition for TFC. A little bit of CPL news. And Vancouver FC have some players. Their first official player has been named. Callum Irvin, returning to Vancouver. The former Whitecaps Academy product. Coming back to play for Vancouver FC after a couple of seasons with Pacific FC in the CPL.
You noticed how on the press release they chose not to put any Vancouver logos on there? I thought that was funny.
Well, Zach, are you going to use that chant you used to chant at him when he was in training at the residency when we would walk by?
Which one? About being better than De Gea?
You're better than De Gea.
Oh, yeah.
That's just because he liked De Gea.
De Gea's.
I know. That's why
I don't like De Gea. I was like,
it was complimentary and him taking a dig at him.
Yeah. Oh, no, I still use it on Twitter. I tweeted it out.
But it's a good first edition for Vancouver FC. And like Zach and me were on the call with him midweek, which we're going to bring you in the next show because we're going to talk a little bit about that in our Christmas special and look ahead to Vancouver FC's season. So we'll bring you Callie's chat on that. But it looks from that he might be the captain of the team as well.
That was an awkward comment from the head coach. I thought, well, like, you don't even know all your players yet. Like, how can you name?
Well, I think they have signed a few players that we just don't know because it does sound like they're going to be making a few announcements over the next few days.
No, yes, but do they really know their whole squad?
Probably not, but I mean, Callie is a leader. He knows the league, and I do like a goalkeeper to be a captain because they can yell it out and they're seeing the whole game play out there.
He's quality. He's proven himself in the league, and I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him. Looking forward to supporting him. It's going to be good times.
Another two potential players for Vancouver FC drafted on Thursday. Anthony White, taken first overall from Toronto Varsity Blues, has come through the Whitecaps Academy. TSS Rovers as well, played and won a League One BC championship alongside his brother Nick. Left-footed centre-back, great addition. Very high on both the White brothers, actually. I think that they're both got great potential in the game. And then the second pick, I don't know much about at all. Did play at the U Sport Nationals with TMU Bold. That I know sounds like it is some kind of font, but it is actually the new name to Toronto Metropolitan University. Amir Kinani, an Iraqi forward.
Yeah, but I looked up on the thing. He's actually a former or a current futsal player for the Canadian national team too, and he scores goals.
So someone who will have exceptional footwork.
It'll be interesting to see if they make it. I'm supportive of the CPL draft, and it's great to have the sport connection. I do feel that the CPL have made it to be a little bit more than it is. This is nowhere near what the NCAA draft is, because the NCAA draft is people that's coming out of college, but this draft is for people that are going to be going back to college. And the commissioner was going on about, it's a big step in their pro careers and stuff. It's not, and it hasn't worked out for a lot of these guys. And someone like Gabriel Bitar, it was 3 times before he ended up getting the minutes, and that was with FC Edmonton because it was kind of like a needs-must situation. So the draft's not quite where it is because all the graduating players weren't in this draft because they're free to negotiate better contracts than a U Sports deal.
Yeah,
I think that's a good deal. It's a good for the players and the teams in that way. I personally have no problem with it.
Pacific FC had a couple of draft picks as well. Eric Lajeunesse, a guy I'm very high on. I would have personally taken him first over Anthony White, to be honest. I'd have taken Anthony White second. So like Lajeunesse and White as your two centre-backs would be good, but I'm sure they're looking for a bit more experience. Eric Lajeunesse, though, UBC Thunderbirds, comes through the Whitecaps Academy as well. Played League One BC with the Whitecaps, an Ottawa lad. Very high on him. I think he was in my League One BC team of the season. I have to go and check that out. He's had a great season with UBC Thunderbirds, Rookie of the Year in U Sports as well. Speaking to Mike Mosher, he said, I don't know how long we'll have Eric. I'm expecting maybe just to have him for a season and then he'll move into the pro ranks. He's that ready. So for Pacific, who are going through a massive rebuild, talked about Montreal and MLS, Pacific right now, oh boy, James Merriman has a big job ahead of him there. Because it's like so many players moved on. Lajeunesse is a great addition, as is Brandon Torreson from Trinity Western, played League One with Unity FC as well. Him and his brother, the Torreson brothers, both came through the Whitecaps Academy. Both really good guys as well.
Hope for the best for all these.
Yeah. Vancouver FC announced coaching staff as well on Friday. Mark Village coming in as the goalkeeper coach. Not a surprise at all. As soon as he left Pacific, I thought he was going to go to Vancouver FC. As soon as we signed Callum Irving, as soon as they signed Callum Irving, I thought, Mark Village is not going to be far behind. So no surprise there. Genuinely surprised by that, because when we spoke to Arshan, he said that the whole thing with his coaching staff was he wanted to get young, up-and-coming Canadian coaches to bring on and develop. Now Thompson's in his late 40s and has been around the blocks for quite a while. Now, he's a great addition, lots of experience, being involved with the Whitecaps residency. I'm a bit surprised by it, though.
But I don't have an issue with it, because although I don't think he's that old comparison to other coaches, but he's got experience in the area. It's a matter of getting the next level of coaches. If they add more coaches below, those are the ones you want to have as young and up-and-comers.
I thought they might have gone for someone like Adam Day, but yeah, they've gone for Niall. I mean, I love Niall. He's a great guy. He's passionate.
Yeah, the second in charge to be somebody with experience, because Arshan doesn't know the area as well as Niall might know.
I think there might be another member of the staff still, but I could be wrong about that.
That would make sense then. But that is it for the football chat. It's not it for the show. We've still got time to bring you this episode's wavelength. So the World Cup is over, and so is our World Cup songs that we've been playing in wavelength during November and December. This is the last one coming up in this episode, and I'm going back to 2014. And it's a spoof song. And I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you remember, he is still on the go, USA Soccer Guy, kind of a comedy account and YouTube channel that talks in American soccer speak, the way that people in the UK think that everybody in North America talks and commentates on soccer. And I think a few of them still do. I think a few of my friends back home think that's how we all talk about football over here. But USA Soccer Guy brought a song out in 2014 for the World Cup in Brazil, and this is it. This is Kick That Soccer Ball.
Here's the cross pass. Inserts in. And they just kick that soccer ball real nice. Kick that soccer ball. Sad, even though the world is crazy bad, we need to unify as one big team on a field of dreams. 4 years, 1 cup, turn the awesome up. I really love this world when the people sing thanks, buddy, for the real nice soccer. We're all coming together and we're gonna kick that soccer ball. Thanks, buddy, for the real nice soccer. Don't want no felony cards. Just kick that soccer ball. It's undeniable that soccer fans have enjoyed watching some real dramatic soccer drama as the race for the world championship hops up. The world's a soccer ball, spinning forever and ever. So go strap on those cleats, get your balls out and come together. 4 years, 1 cup, turn the awesome up. I really love this world when the people sing thanks, buddy, for the real nice soccer. We're all coming together and we're gonna kick that soccer ball. Thanks, buddy, for the real nice soccer. Don't want no felony cards. Just kick that soccer ball. Messi's always asked what you gotta do to win the World Cup. Now he's telling you, you play the ball from the defense and through the middle. Play it to the wide guy and watch him dribble and make the possession slide and lead the defense guy just like a bad guy who likes his chicken fried. Now play it back to the quarterback. On his own, watch it kick it real nice into the danger box zone. To the big guy, headshot, on the spot, real hot, goal shot. Really real sweet, the players head back to the locker as the fans thank the buddy for the real nice soccer.
Thanks, buddy, for the real nice soccer.
Real nice soccer.
We're all coming together. Yeah, we're gonna kick that soccer ball. Thanks, buddy, for the real nice soccer.
Real nice soccer.
Don't want no felony cards.
What?
Just kick that soccer ball. Thanks, buddy, for the real nice soccer.
Real nice soccer.
We're all coming together. Yeah, we're gonna kick that soccer ball. Thanks, buddy, for the real nice soccer.
That's real nice soccer.
I don't want no felony cards. Just kick that soccer ball.
Come on.
Just kick that soccer ball.
Come on.
Just kick that soccer ball.
Come on.
Just kick that soccer ball.
Come on.
Just kick that soccer ball.
USA Soccer Guy, kick that soccer ball. So that is it for the show. Thank you for staying with us. I know it's been a long one. My voice has made it to the end. Has actually started to get better as the thing went on. Maybe I just need to talk more. That's bad news for my wife. Just before we go though, Steve, let everyone know where they can find you online. Any final thoughts heading into our Christmas special?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Whitecaps Pete. And my after this podcast, I didn't expect that we would be mentioning, and maybe we need to go back and count it up, but mentioning as many times as Messi as we mentioned in this show as Pepe from Zach's friend.
Yeah.
Chile. I think I'm wondering who got mentioned more in this podcast, Messi or him. So it's interesting. I think you should maybe even name the podcast Pepe or Messi.
I think Pepe might have got the more mentions.
You can find me on Twitter at Zachary M, tweeting very occasionally. Yeah, it's good to be back. Looking forward to doing the Christmas show and hopefully maybe even some trivia stuff between now and beginning of January. But yeah.
It's been great to have you back on the show.
And stay safe in the snow. There's a lot of
yes,
snow.
It's horrendous today as we're recording this. As I look out my window, very pretty though, and it's just what you want at this time of year, says the person that doesn't have to go out this week. I am Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read all our stuff away from the numbers, aftn.ca. If you want to get in touch, you can also get in touch on email, aftncanada@hotmail.com. I know a lot of you do. I know I'm very bad at replying to your emails, but I do read them all and really do appreciate the messages as well. I just want to finish with a final thought. I've spoken on the show before. I've really got into watching the A-League late at night.
Oh, yeah.
On YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun. And I spoke, I think it was just on the last show, Steve, about is Canada really at that soccer nation? You see how they are in Australia right now. And should Canada's fans be more like those Australian fans?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah, I remember listening to that episode.
If anyone hasn't seen what happened on the early hours of Saturday morning for us, Saturday normal in Australia, it was the Melbourne Derby. Melbourne victory, Melbourne City. And as a bit of background, this week the A-League bigwigs, the grand final has always been played at the highest remaining team that's in the final, much like the MLS Cup has in most of the recent memory. And that's changed. The bigwigs at the A-League decided that Sydney will be hosting the grand final for the next 3 years, no matter what teams make it into the final. And obviously, the Melbourne teams have done well recently and lifted the trophy. So the Melbourne fans went happy. We were told they were going to do some protests at this derby. A lot of talk had been it was going to be a walkout, which I thought was kind of pointless because you're already in there.
There were walkouts in other stadiums, apparently.
Yes.
So it wasn't just the only one.
So for the first 20 minutes of the Melbourne Derby, there was a lot of flares getting thrown out on the pitch.
They didn't do a walkout. They did more like a walk-on.
Yes.
Yeah, walk-on.
But they'd been throwing flares on the pitch. And
As you do.
As you do. And of course, they had the buckets there to extinguish the flares. And then about the 21st minute mark, there was a pitch invasion. But it was sparked because a flare had been thrown in the pitch. and the Melbourne City keeper had kind of taken the flare and kind of thrown it back towards the crowd. And that then sparked an invasion of the Melbourne Victory fans. I thought
it apparently did go into the group of fans. It didn't even go towards them, it went into the fans.
I thought, oh, has Zach made it over to Australia now and caused some more trouble down under? But no, apparently not. He was still here. But if you haven't seen the footage, the Melbourne Victory fans just run on the pitch. Someone takes the bucket that the flares get extinguished in and slams it into the face of the Melbourne City goalkeeper. He was taken off to hospital. The referee got hurt as well. The match got abandoned. Just absolutely batshit crazy scenes.
I think it was, the whole thing was like, if he just thrown it and it didn't go into the crowd, I don't think it would have happened. But it probably hit somebody, and that just sparked everything. But you know what? If you're going to throw something onto the field, and then you're going to get upset because it was thrown back at you, then, maybe you shouldn't be. I feel like that's the snowflake mentality, where you just can't take it if you do it to somebody
But that's the thing with football fans. They can't take it back. And it's like, I've been guilty for that as well. You abuse a player, he gives something back, and then it's like all hell breaks loose. But that was absolutely insane. And it's actually really sad because Australia had done so well that the Socceroos had got an enthusiasm back for Australian soccer. And that's just been undone because that's just all everyone's talking about down there. And I don't know what the repercussions are going to be yet for Melbourne and their fans, but it's not looking good. And it's also maybe not made the bigwigs think, maybe we should have the grand final played in Melbourne instead of Sydney either. So, but yeah, crazy stuff. Merry Christmas, everybody. But that is it for this show. Thank you as always for listening. Until next time, take care, stay safe in the snow, and mon the Messi.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but